A robber tosses a bag onto the counter and demands cash, expecting a quick surrender from the cashier. Security footage shows a suspect wearing a hoodie entering a mobile phone store and approaching the register. He throws a bag onto the counter and orders the employee to fill it with money while displaying a handgun. As the robber walks towards behind the counter, the cashier suddenly produces his own firearm from behind the counter. The attempted robbery instantly shifts as the suspect loses the initiative. The suspect is stopped near the counter while the cashier remains behind the counter. The robbery attempt ends within seconds, and authorities are later notified of the incident. A woman was closing her driveway gate when a white van rolls past, and a suspect suddenly jumps out. Security camera footage from Maipu, Chile, shows the woman outside her home near a parked vehicle. As she moves by the gate, a white van slows along the street, and a suspect exits, appearing to rush toward the property. Recognizing the danger immediately, the off-duty PDI official draws her service weapon and fires toward the approaching suspect before he can reach the driveway. The suspect quickly turns and runs back toward the van. The group abandons the apparent robbery attempt and flees the area before police arrive. Two motorcycle thieves pulled up opposite a parked car. Then the owner suddenly chased them with a stick. Near a roadside bridge, two suspects arrived on a motorcycle and one jumped off holding a weapon, causing the car owner to run. The suspect quickly opened the car and grabbed the man's bag while his partner waited on the bike. Instead of staying back, the owner grabbed a stick and charged after the suspect, swinging at him as the thief on the motorcycle scrambled to escape. One of the suspects went down on the scene while the other jumped back onto the motorcycle and sped away, while the owner continued chasing him down the roadside. The suspect returns to finish the wounded store owner, but the owner is still armed. Security footage from a Costa Rican liquor store shows a robber wearing a motorcycle helmet entering the business and confronting the owner at gunpoint. A shootout erupts near the entrance, leaving the owner seriously wounded. Believing the owner can no longer fight back, the suspect walks back toward him to finish the attack. From the floor, the injured owner pulls another pistol and fires multiple shots at close range. The robber collapses inside the store and dies before emergency crews arrive. The owner, shot, survives after being rushed to the hospital. Two suspects arrive on a bicycle looking for an easy target, but within seconds, their robbery attempt falls apart. A delivery rider stands beside his motorcycle on a residential street when two suspects pull up on a bicycle. The suspects confront the rider and demand his motorcycle key. Believing they have control of the situation, one suspect moves toward the motorcycle while the other moves to their bicycle. The robbery appears to be succeeding as one suspect gets onto the motorcycle and prepares to ride away. But at that moment, the delivery rider suddenly produced a firearm and fired towards them. The suspects are caught completely off guard as the situation instantly shifts against them. The attempted theft is abandoned as the suspects scramble to escape. What started as a planned motorcycle robbery turns into a chaotic retreat, with the rider preventing the loss of his vehicle. A robber storms into a bakery with a hostage, but an off-duty officer is nearby. Security cameras show an armed robber arriving on a motorcycle while an accomplice waits outside. The suspect forces a street vendor into the bakery and pushes him toward the register where an off-duty police officer is making a purchase. The robber shoves both the vendor and the officer while trying to control the store. The officer moves toward a corridor, draws his handgun as the confrontation unfolds, and several shots are fired. The wounded robber flees down a side street while his accomplice escapes on the motorcycle. The suspect did not survive his injuries sustained during the confrontation. A man walks into a store looking like an ordinary customer, then suddenly pulls a knife. Store security footage shows a man casually entering the shop and approaching the counter. Nothing appears unusual at first, but when the employee briefly looks away, the man pulls out a knife, threatens him, and takes his phone while demanding compliance. What the robber doesn't realize is that another employee is resting behind him and has witnessed the entire encounter. Seeing the threat unfold, the worker suddenly springs up, rushes the suspect from behind, and wraps him up before he can react. Caught completely off guard, the robber is driven to the floor as the employees work together to restrain him. His attempted robbery unravels within seconds after losing control of the situation. Two armed suspects rushed a man near his car, but the robbery collapsed the moment one got pinned to the floor. In broad daylight on a residential street in San Leandro, California, a man walks toward his parked car when two suspects suddenly run up on him. One suspect points a handgun while moving in close, expecting the victim to freeze. Instead of freezing, the man suddenly grabs the armed suspect and slams him onto the roadway. CCTV footage captures the second suspect stopping in shock as the handgun flies from the robber's hand during the struggle. The second suspect begins yelling for the man to let his partner go. Moments later, both suspects scramble away from the scene as the victim regains control of the situation. An armed motorcycle robbery turns chaotic after the victim fights back at a gas station. Security cameras in Buenos Aires captured a worker arriving at a gas station on his motorcycle with his girlfriend. Moments later, two armed suspects pulled up beside them on another motorcycle. One suspect jumped off with a pistol, but the victim fought back and tackled him to the ground. As the victim pinned the robber, the accomplice waited nearby. When he sped away, the victim's girlfriend chased after him, and the fleeing gunman fired back, grazing the victim's leg. Gas station workers restrained the suspect until police arrived. Authorities recovered a Bursa Thunderpoint .380 pistol, arrested the suspect, and searched for the accomplice who escaped. Just when an armed robber thought he was walking out with cash, he barely made it to the door. In Rosario, Argentina, a suspect entered an ice cream shop carrying what appeared to be a handgun and demanded money from the register. After collecting cash, he turned to leave while customers and employees watched in shock. Just as the suspect reached the exit, an employee charged from behind and tackled him. The pair fell to the floor, and two co-workers immediately joined the struggle. The employees prevented the suspect from escaping, lowered the security shutter, and called police. Officers arrived minutes later and took the suspect into custody. Authorities later reported the weapon was a replica firearm. A teenager enters a liquor store carrying whiskey bottles, but the owner is already watching. Security footage shows an 18-year-old entering a store in Brazil and picking up 2 bottles of whiskey. The store owner quietly watches from between the aisles, growing suspicious of his behavior. The young man places the bottles on the counter. Moments later, he pulls a handgun from his waistband and announces a robbery. Before he can take control of the store, the owner emerges from behind a shelf as shots are fired. The suspect falls to the ground, gets up immediately, and flees the scene. Police later locate and arrest the wounded robber before transporting him to a hospital under guard. A driver refuses to unlock her car for an armed robber, and nearby police are already watching. Security camera footage from Guayaquil, Ecuador, shows a man approaching a parked vehicle in broad daylight. He points a handgun at the woman inside and demands access to the car, but she keeps the doors locked and refuses to comply. Frustrated, the suspect strikes the window with his gun and continues trying to force his way in. Police officers in the area quickly notice the attempted carjacking and move in to intervene. When officers confront him, the suspect opens fire and tries to escape across the lot. A gunfight followed, and the suspect was hit before he could get away. Locked doors and staying inside the vehicle can create valuable protection during a carjacking attempt. If threatened, avoid opening the door, create distance if possible, and contact police as soon as it is safe to do so. A masked robber lunged across a Philadelphia store counter, but the robbery instantly collapsed when a teen pulled a handgun from his waistband. Late at night, inside a Philadelphia convenience store, a masked suspect reaches across the counter attempting to grab cash from the register while customers stand nearby. A 14-year-old teen son of the store owner behind the counter immediately pulls his mother's handgun from his waistband and fires as the suspect leans over the register. The suspect quickly slumped on the counter before officers later responded and reviewed the surveillance footage from inside the store. A routine morning at a bank turns deadly when a robbery attempt erupts into a struggle and gunfire. Security cameras inside a Banco Mercantil branch in São Bernardo do Campo show 2 men entering the bank appearing to be ordinary customers. According to police, the suspects were carrying a toy gun and later announced a robbery inside the branch. A security guard confronted one of the suspects, and the two became involved in a physical struggle. As customers and employees reacted to the chaos, the guard fired multiple shots during the confrontation. A 25-year-old bank employee was critically injured during the confrontation and later died at the hospital. Both robbery suspects were also injured and taken to a hospital under police escort while authorities investigated the incident. 3 armed suspects followed a man home from a bank, but the plan collapsed in seconds. In Dallas, Texas, Mark Gardner and his stepson had just left a bank when they noticed they were being followed. Minutes later, as they pulled into their driveway, 3 armed suspects rushed their vehicle. The suspects surrounded the vehicle, yanked on the doors, struck the windows, and demanded money. But instead of stepping out, Gardner stayed inside and kept the vehicle secure as the suspects grew more desperate. After a while, Gardner drove away from the scene, making the suspects abandon the robbery attempt and flee. Gardner and his stepson escaped unharmed, while police launched an investigation using surveillance footage from the scene. A man enters a bakery announcing a robbery. Unaware an armed police officer is already inside. Late at night, customers sit inside a bakery in Vega Baja, Puerto Rico, when a hooded man enters and moves toward the counter. A police officer dining inside immediately notices the suspicious behavior. As the suspect approaches the service area, the officer reacts as shots are fired during the confrontation. Panic spreads through the dining area as patrons scramble away. The suspect is later pronounced dead following the confrontation. Customers and employees emerge from cover as responding officers secure the business and begin their investigation. 2 motorcycle thieves corner a family beside their car. Then the driver reaches back inside and changes everything. Security footage shows a family arriving in a garage area when 2 men on a motorcycle pull up beside their blue car. One suspect confronts the male driver while the other moves toward the woman as the motorcycle waits nearby. As the suspects try to control the family, the driver ducks back into the car, grabs a firearm, and points it toward them. The robbers immediately lose control and scramble to escape. The suspects flee on the motorcycle while the family pulls back from the car and regroups. The attempted robbery ends without the thieves taking the vehicle or abducting anyone. 2 motorcycle suspects rushed an avocado businessman's SUV, but the ambush instantly collapsed when gunfire suddenly erupted from inside the vehicle. In broad daylight outside a private residential entrance in Uruapan, Michoacan, 2 suspects on a motorcycle drive behind a white SUV believed to be carrying an avocado businessman. The motorcycle stops as the white SUV parks and one of the suspects jumps down. As the suspects stepped toward the SUV, shots suddenly erupted from inside the vehicle, forcing the suspects into a chaotic retreat. The motorcycle tipped over as the suspects scrambled away from the entrance. The attempted ambush quickly fell apart as the suspects fled the scene, and the SUV remained secured near the gate. 2 purse snatchers tried to flee, then hit a tree, crashed in the road, got beaten by locals. On a residential street in Mar del Plata, Argentina, 2 suspects on a motorcycle pulled alongside a woman near the corner. One suspect reached for her purse while the driver prepared for a fast getaway. Seeing the victim's resistance, the suspect quickly got on the motorcycle for a quick getaway. The robbery collapsed seconds later when the motorcycle clipped a roadside tree while accelerating away. The bike then skidded into the intersection and threw both suspects onto the roadway as nearby residents sprinted toward the crash scene carrying sticks and loose debris. CCTV footage captured the suspects scrambling around the fallen motorcycle while angry locals surrounded them from multiple directions. What started as a quick snatching attempt quickly turned into a chaotic street confrontation. Street robberies can escalate unpredictably within seconds, create distance, move toward safe public areas, and contact authorities instead of entering the conflict path. A thief lifts a manhole cover in broad daylight, then disappears into the hole he just opened. In Medellin, Colombia, onlookers film as a man tries to steal a heavy metal manhole cover from the street while a biker waits nearby. The bizarre attempted theft was captured on camera by residents watching from nearby buildings, giving viewers a clear look at what happened. He finally gets the cover up over his head, but loses his footing and drops straight into the open drain. The biker rides off as the thief climbs back out in pain, leaving the cover behind while people nearby react to the failed theft. The clip quickly spread online, with many viewers stunned by how quickly the attempted theft went wrong. Unusual hazards in public spaces are often overlooked until something goes wrong. Paying attention to changes in the environment can protect both yourself and others. 2 masked gunmen storm into a business expecting an easy score, then a single blast sends them running for their lives. Surveillance video from Norco, California shows a dark-colored SUV arriving during the early morning hours. 2 suspects came out wearing masks and hoodies. They approached the entrance with one of them carrying a long gun and moved into the business together as part of an attempted armed robbery. The moment the suspects enter with their rifles raised, an employee inside fires a single shotgun blast. The unexpected resistance catches them off guard and immediately disrupts the robbery. The suspects abandoned the attempt and sprinted back outside, fleeing the scene. Investigators later located the group at a Southern California hospital, where one suspect was being treated for a gunshot wound consistent with a shotgun blast. Authorities also recovered the stolen SUV and reportedly found multiple stolen firearms inside the vehicle. Armed robberies can unfold in seconds and involve multiple offenders. When possible, creating distance, finding cover, escaping safely, and contacting police are generally safer options than moving toward the threat. 2 armed men force their way into a garage moments after a driver pulls in, unaware that the occupant is ready to fight back. Home security footage shows a white sedan entering a residential garage at night. As the garage door begins closing behind it, 2 armed intruders rush forward, stop the door, and force their way inside before it can shut. One intruder moves toward the passenger side of the vehicle and attempts to open the door. Instead of finding an easy victim, he is met by an armed occupant who exits the car and immediately fires at close range. The surprised intruders abandon the robbery and sprint back out of the garage. The armed resident continues firing as they flee, and the suspects escape from the property. Garage invasions happen fast because criminals try to catch victims during the transition from street to home. Stay alert when pulling in, close garage doors promptly, and report suspicious activity immediately rather than investigating it yourself. A gunman steps from a red car and targets a parked driver. Seconds later, the robbery takes an unexpected turn. Captured by a residential surveillance camera, a red hatchback parks a few meters ahead of a white car on a quiet Brazilian street. A suspect exits, points what appears to be a firearm at the driver, and orders him out. As the gunman advances, the red car drives away, leaving him alone. Believing the weapon is real, the victim initially complies and steps away from his vehicle. The suspect doesn't realize the driver is reportedly an off-duty police officer. Using a nearby parked car as cover, the officer repositions and fires 2 shots as the attempted carjacking unfolds. Under sudden threat, people often focus only on the immediate demand. Looking for opportunities to improve position and awareness can influence the outcome. A white SUV suddenly stops in the middle of the street, but the intended victim turns out to be armed. Street surveillance footage from Ramos Mejia, Argentina, shows a white SUV pulling up ahead of another vehicle at night. Multiple robbery suspects jump out and move toward the car behind, apparently intending to rob or carjack its occupant. Before the suspects can complete the robbery, the driver of the targeted vehicle quickly draws a handgun and opens fire. The armed suspects scatter as shots are exchanged, forcing the attempted robbery to unravel almost immediately. One suspect was struck during the confrontation and collapsed near the scene, while another escaped. Police later recovered a firearm and investigated the incident as an attempted armed robbery. Criminals often rely on surprise and speed, staying aware of unusual vehicle movements, keeping space around your car when possible, and having an escape route can provide critical options when a situation suddenly turns dangerous. A homeowner steps outside at night, then notices a stranger moving through his driveway. Home security footage from a residential property shows a pickup truck parked in the driveway while a resident stands near the front entrance. Moments later, a man walks onto the property and moves around the parked vehicle, apparently checking for an opportunity to steal from it. Rather than leaving the property, the man appears to continue toward the entrance, seemingly intending to enter the home. Unbeknownst to him, the homeowner is positioned behind the doorway. As the suspect reaches the entrance area, the homeowner suddenly confronts him and opens fire. The suspect collapses near the doorway. Authorities later responded to investigate the shooting and the circumstances surrounding the apparent attempted home invasion. Residential intrusions can unfold in seconds. Strong doors, exterior lighting, security cameras, and maintaining a protected position inside the home can provide valuable warning time when someone approaches unexpectedly. 4 armed robbers stormed a supermarket expecting an easy score. Then a security guard opened fire. Security footage from a supermarket in Georgetown shows multiple robbers entering the store and moving quickly toward the checkout area. Customers and employees were caught off guard as the group spread through the front of the business, creating confusion and panic inside the crowded store. As the robbery unfolded near the registers, the supermarket's armed security guard responded. A gunfight erupted inside the store, sending shoppers and workers scrambling for cover behind counters and displays. The robbers suddenly found themselves facing armed resistance instead of compliant victims. The exchange of gunfire forced the crew's plan to collapse. According to reports, 2 of the 4 robbers were fatally wounded during the confrontation. The surviving suspects fled the scene as customers and employees took shelter. Police later secured the supermarket and began investigating the attempted robbery. During an armed robbery, finding cover and moving away from the line of fire is often more important than protecting property. Creating distance from the threat and following directions from responding security personnel or police can improve your chances of staying safe. A suspected car thief jumps into an SUV, unaware the owner is armed nearby. At a Miami car wash, a man allegedly pushes an employee and climbs into a customer's Mercedes-Benz SUV. Surveillance cameras capture the suspect, entering the vehicle as people nearby react. The SUV begins moving through the lot as the owner runs toward it with a handgun drawn. As the vehicle changes direction, shots are fired during the confrontation. The SUV crashes into a nearby building and stops. The suspect later passed away from injuries sustained during the incident, and prosecutors declined to file charges against the vehicle owner under Florida's Stand Your Ground law. A stolen vehicle can be replaced. Being drawn into the thief's decisions cannot. Recognizing when control has been lost is often the safest moment to disengage. A phone snatcher speeds in from behind, then loses control before escaping. In Pakistan, a man is walking along the road on his phone when a biker rides up from behind and grabs it from his hand. As the rider tries to flee, he loses balance and crashes. The victim rushes back, grabs his phone, and confronts him as bystanders gather. The suspect pulls out a machete, changing the situation instantly. The victim backs away as the crowd keeps its distance. Moments later, a bull charges into the scene and knocks the suspect off balance into his motorcycle. The interruption leaves onlookers stunned as the video abruptly ends. The appearance of a weapon changes the objective immediately. What matters most is recognizing the shift from recovering property to protecting personal survival. A thief reaches through a door's mail slot, only to realize someone inside is watching. Security footage shows a man outside a home trying to open the front door by sticking his hand through the mail hole. Before he can unlock it, the homeowner spots the arm coming through and strikes at it with a baseball bat from inside. The thief quickly pulls back, gives up on the door, and runs away from the property as the break-in attempt fails. Nearby, pedestrians continue walking past, while the homeowner remains inside, ending the incident without any property being stolen that day there. Attempts to breach a home often begin with small tests of security. Recognizing unusual activity early can provide critical time to respond safely. A phone thief snatches from a woman at a bus stop, then her boyfriend drives straight into the chase. In Vila Velha, Brazil, a woman stands near a bus stop when a man on a bicycle rides up and grabs her phone before speeding away. Her boyfriend arrives in a black car, sees the theft, and cuts across the road to stop the fleeing suspect. After the collision, the suspect runs, but bystanders chase him down and hold him until police arrive. Officers later arrest him. The stolen phone is recovered as the suspect's attempted escape collapses. The urge to immediately recover stolen property can override good judgment. Taking time to think beyond the emotional reaction often prevents further danger. 3 salon workers face a robber pretending to have a gun and refuse to let him take control. In Duran, Ecuador, a man in a black shirt and cap enters a beauty salon with his hand in his pocket, acting like he has a weapon. He moves toward the closest worker and tries to grab her. The woman fights back, pulling at him and shouting for help. Her co-workers rush in, one even lifting a table as they force the robber toward the door. Overwhelmed by the group, the suspect breaks free and runs from the salon empty-handed. Many offenders rely on fear and hesitation. Understanding available exits and options before panic sets in can improve personal safety. A robber pulls a knife on a gas station clerk, but the clerk grabs a machete instead. At a Huntsville, Alabama gas station, a man enters pretending to shop before pulling a knife and demanding cash. Surveillance video shows the clerk grabbing a machete as the suspect backs toward the door. A second suspect waits outside near a getaway car. The clerk advances with the machete, forcing the robber out of the store. Glass shatters as the suspect escapes and runs toward the waiting vehicle. As the suspects attempt to flee, the clerk damages the getaway car to help identify it. While he's focused on the vehicle, the suspect runs back inside and steals a machine before escaping. Police later arrest both suspects. A situation that appears resolved can still contain hidden danger. Knowing when to stop engaging is often as important as knowing when to act. Two armed suspects think they have an easy target until the situation suddenly reverses. Outside a business in Morelia, Mexico, two suspects on a motorcycle approach a white sedan in what reports describe as an attempted robbery. The driver appears to flee as the suspects remain near the curb. Seconds later, the driver suddenly reverses toward the motorcycle before the suspects can leave. The car slams into the bike, knocking both men to the ground and sending the motorcycle onto the sidewalk. The suspects quickly scramble to their feet and flee on foot, abandoning the motorcycle behind. After disrupting their escape, the driver leaves the scene in his vehicle. The moment a threat begins to retreat can create a false sense of confidence. Re-engaging may restart a situation that was already ending. A couple catches a car burglar inside their truck, then chases him down before police arrive. In Harriman, Utah, a homeowner notices a man rummaging through her unlocked Dodge Ram in the middle of the night. After spotting him on a security camera, she alerts her husband and heads outside. The woman distracts the suspect by confronting him near the vehicle. As the burglar responds, her husband rushes in from behind, grabs him, and restrains him, while an accomplice flees in a getaway car. The suspect breaks free and runs, but police later locate and arrest the 20-year-old man. Security footage captures the entire encounter. Seeing a crime in progress often creates pressure to intervene. Valuable information provided safely can be more useful than direct involvement. A homeowner wakes to masked intruders inside his house, then fights them off to protect his wife. In Rochdale, England, a man hears his dogs barking and discovers a masked intruder inside his home. As he confronts the suspect, accomplices enter the house. The homeowner exchanges punches with the intruders and forces them toward the back door. During the struggle, one suspect threatens to kill him and appears armed with what police believe may have been a screwdriver. Fearing for his wife's safety, the homeowner grabs kitchen knives and drives the group from the property. The suspects flee into the night as investigators review CCTV footage and seek information. Protecting family members begins with controlling movement and information during a crisis. Establishing a safe location can reduce confusion when seconds matter. Three armed intruders kick in a home's front door, and the confrontation ends with one suspect left behind. In Gwinnett County, Georgia, three armed men force their way into a residence during the early morning hours, moving room to room, searching for cash and valuables. The homeowner, awakened by the break-in, retrieves a firearm and confronts the intruders inside the darkened house. Gunfire erupts as the suspects encounter unexpected resistance. One intruder is shot during the confrontation and later dies from his injuries, while the other two flee. The homeowner calls 911, cooperates with investigators, and police launch a search for the surviving suspects. Organized offenders frequently depend on confusion and isolation. Strong communication between neighbors and quick reporting can reduce opportunities for criminals to operate unnoticed. Three masked men claiming to be police kick in a front door, then the homeowner fires back. In Auburn, Washington, 3 armed suspects wearing masks approach a home before dawn. As they try to force entry, one can be heard falsely identifying himself as a police officer. The suspects repeatedly kick the door until it begins to give way. Inside, the homeowner arms themselves and fires several shots as the break-in unfolds. The suspects retreat and flee the property. As they escape, gunfire is exchanged outside the home, with bullets striking nearby houses and property. No injuries are reported, and police begin searching for the suspects. Trust is often exploited before force is used. Verifying authority through independent sources can prevent criminals from using deception to gain access. A routine walk turns into a life-or-death struggle when a man suddenly confronts a woman on a Chicago sidewalk, all captured by a nearby security camera. A residential security camera captures an off-duty police officer walking outside an apartment building when a man approaches and begins interacting with her. The encounter quickly becomes a physical struggle, with investigators later alleging the man attempted to take the officer's firearm during the fight as they wrestled on the sidewalk. The struggle ends with shots fired. The man later dies from his injuries as investigators review the security footage. Personal space is a form of protection. Recognizing behavior that closes distance aggressively can provide an early warning before confrontation develops. Porch camera captures the suspected intruder stumbling down the front steps moments after a home invasion erupts into gunfire inside the apartment. After allegedly breaking into the home through a kitchen window, the suspect is confronted by an armed resident, awakened by the disturbance, with indoor security cameras recording the chaos. During the exchange of gunfire captured on the apartment's cameras, both the resident and his girlfriend are struck, while the suspect is also wounded. Doorbell-style surveillance footage later shows the suspect struggling to flee across the snowy front porch before collapsing near the entrance and being taken into custody. Once an intruder enters a home, certainty disappears. Focusing on protection and communication is often more effective than attempting to control the entire situation. A masked robber breaks into a Chick-fil-A before opening and corners the wrong employee with a gun. At 4:30 a.m. in Gwinnett County, the suspect smashes through the drive-thru window, walks into the back room, and forces employee Kevin Blair toward the safe. When the robber points the gun at Blair's face, Blair grabs the suspect's wrist and fights to keep the weapon pointed away from him, refusing to surrender despite the threat. The struggle lasts about 3 minutes before the suspect runs off. Blair pulls off the mask during the fight, helping police identify and later arrest the 53-year-old suspect. Compliance and resistance both carry uncertainty during armed encounters. Recognizing available options early can improve the chances of making safer decisions under pressure. A homeowner arrives home and is suddenly ambushed outside his front door. Captured by the homeowner's security camera, a masked gunman rushes up the walkway just as the resident reaches his front door. Captured on the home's security camera, a masked suspect suddenly vaults over the front fence and rushes toward the homeowner as he approaches his front door. Realizing he is being ambushed, the homeowner reacts instantly, throwing his drink, drawing his handgun, and firing as the intruder closes in. The suspect immediately turns and runs. A second accomplice also flees, and both men escape over the front gate without taking anything from the property. Ambushes succeed by denying time to think. Developing awareness of surroundings before reaching vulnerable transition points can reduce exposure to surprise attack. A man steps out of his apartment and comes face to face with armed robbers hiding in the stairwell. Security camera footage captures a resident leaving his apartment. As he enters the corridor, several suspects who had quietly moved up the stairwell reveal themselves. One points a firearm and attempts to take control. The victim reacts instantly. He reaches for a handgun at his waist and draws before the suspects can act. Shots are fired in the narrow corridor as the armed men scramble for cover. One suspect goes down on the stairway as the others flee. The resident then locks the corridor entrance, securing access to his apartment. Shared residential spaces can limit visibility and escape options. Paying attention to unusual movement in these areas may provide valuable warning before an encounter unfolds. A truck burglar thinks he found an easy target until the owner walks up behind him. Security camera footage from a Jacksonville Beach parking garage shows a man rummaging through a pickup truck. The owner, Steve Fitzgerald, steps outside and catches the suspect in the act. The suspect pulls out a metal pipe and advances while shouting threats. Fitzgerald backs away, draws his legally carried handgun, and repeatedly orders the man to stop and leave. Instead of continuing the confrontation, the suspect turns and runs. Tesla camera footage and witness video help police track him down, leading to an arrest shortly afterward. Many confrontations are driven by emotion and momentum. Remaining composed can create opportunities for better decisions when tensions rise unexpectedly. A woman outside her gate spots two men on a motorcycle heading straight toward her and makes a split-second decision that ruins their plan. Security cameras show the woman holding her handbag on a residential sidewalk. A motorcycle slows beside her, and one rider quickly jumps off and starts closing the distance. Realizing she's being targeted, the woman immediately throws her bag over the wall and runs. The suspect reaches the spot where she was standing seconds earlier, only to find the bag out of reach. With the robbery falling apart, the suspects abandon the attempt and retreat on the motorcycle empty-handed. The entire encounter lasts moments before they disappear from the area. The earliest warning signs are often subtle. Trusting instincts and responding before a threat fully develops can prevent becoming an easier target. Shotgun-wielding robber thought everyone would comply. One customer had other plans. Captured by store surveillance cameras, a man in a leather jacket moves behind the counter at a Casey's convenience store. After grabbing a shotgun, he points it toward customer Bryce Gathercole, while employees hide nearby. Instead of panicking, Gathercole remains calm and speaks to the suspect. As the robber's attention shifts, he suddenly grabs the shotgun's barrel and wrestles control of the weapon away. The suspect stumbles into the plexiglass counter as Gathercole secures the shotgun. Surveillance footage captures the dramatic disarming before police take the suspect into custody. Criminal behavior can shift without warning during high-stress events. Understanding that situations evolve rapidly may help people avoid relying on assumptions. A taxi driver stops to check damage after a crash, then realizes the men nearby are armed robbers. In Johannesburg, CBD, a motorist in a white Corolla is ambushed at a traffic light. Several suspects smash his windows, point firearms, and rob him before his car rolls forward into a taxi. The taxi driver steps out to inspect the bump, but the robbers turn their guns toward him too. He draws his licensed firearm as the confrontation escalates. The suspects scatter and flee the scene. The robbed motorist is later treated for a gunshot wound and treated by medics, while police open cases of armed robbery and attempted murder. Criminal attention can shift unexpectedly between people nearby. Remaining aware of changing circumstances helps reduce the chance of becoming involved in someone else's crisis. 3 armed men arrive at a family home expecting easy victims, but the plan unravels in seconds. Captured on a residential security camera in Cocalco, Mexico, the footage shows 3 suspects pulling up on a motorcycle and approaching a house in the Ranchos La Palma neighborhood late at night. One suspect points a firearm at a family member and issues threats. Before he can take control, another person rushes in from behind, disarms him, and sparks a chaotic struggle at the front gate. As more family members join in, the suspects are overwhelmed. One accomplice flees when he realizes he is outnumbered, while 2 others are detained and later arrested on weapons and assault-related charges. Moments of courage can also carry significant risk. Understanding the potential consequences of intervention helps people make informed choices during emergencies. The burglars thought everyone inside was asleep until a homeowner woke up armed. Captured by a home security camera in Port Elizabeth, South Africa, the footage shows multiple intruders moving through a house in the early morning hours, searching rooms for valuables. The noise wakes a woman inside the home. She retrieves a revolver and fires toward the intruders, prompting them to retreat from the home. The suspects scramble out through a window and flee before they can complete the burglary. Security camera footage later helps document the attempted home invasion. Reports indicate property was taken, but no injuries were reported. Discovering intruders inside a home creates immediate uncertainty. Establishing a plan before an emergency occurs can reduce hesitation when quick decisions become necessary. Two armed riders pull into a gas station, and the man by the pump reacts before they can take control. In Teresina, Brazil, security footage shows a man standing beside his car while it's being refueled. Two suspects arrive on a motorcycle and stop behind him. One suspect gets off and moves toward the victim with a weapon. The man reacts instantly, draws his own firearm, and responds as the suspects turn away. One suspect goes down near the pump while the other escapes on the motorcycle. Police later investigate the case as an attempted robbery and self-defense shooting. Witnesses nearby scramble for cover as the chaotic encounter unfolds in just a few seconds. A robber thought he had complete control of the store until the clerk suddenly fought back with a weapon of his own. Store surveillance footage shows a masked robber entering the business and pointing a firearm at an employee behind the counter. The suspect ordered the worker to hand over cash and valuables, then began collecting items from the register area while keeping the employee under threat. As the robber continued demanding cash, the worker suddenly reached for the firearm. In a split second, the gun was pulled away from the suspect, turning the robbery into a dangerous close-range struggle. The worker gained control of the weapon and fired toward the robber, forcing the attempted robbery to stop immediately. The situation ended inside the store after the suspect lost control of both the weapon and the scene. Armed robberies are unpredictable and extremely dangerous. If possible, prioritize creating distance, escaping safely, and contacting police rather than attempting to recover property or confront a suspect. A robbery inside a convenience store instantly collapsed when the cashier suddenly ripped the weapon straight from the suspect's hand before he could react. Inside a small grocery store in Borehamwood, England, a man approached the counter pretending to buy cigarettes and alcohol. As the cashier packed the items, the suspect suddenly pulled out what appeared to be a handgun and demanded money from the register. Without hesitation, the shopkeeper lunged across the counter and stripped the weapon away in one sharp movement. The stunned robber immediately retreated and rushed out of the store empty-handed. Police later confirmed the firearm was actually a replica weapon. Never assume a displayed weapon is fake during a robbery. Prioritize distance, silent alarms, escape routes, and rapid emergency response whenever possible. A burglary suspect drags a police officer into a speeding getaway car. In Antioch, California, 3 suspects use a vehicle to smash through a store entrance. As officers arrive, one officer confronts the driver, who remains inside the getaway vehicle. The driver suddenly accelerates, pulling the officer into the moving car. As they speed through city streets, the officer and suspect struggle over control of the vehicle, while the officer repeatedly orders him to stop. The suspect refuses to surrender and continues driving. Fearing a crash, the officer fires during the struggle, ending the immediate threat. The driver eventually stops, attempts to flee on foot, and is arrested. The other 2 suspects flee on foot. A moving vehicle introduces unpredictable force and direction. Recognizing how quickly circumstances can change helps explain why vehicle-related confrontations are so dangerous. 2 robbers on a motorcycle target a gas station worker, but a nearby customer reacts first. Security footage from a gas station in Los Chiles, Costa Rica, shows 2 men arriving on a motorcycle. They approach an employee fueling a vehicle while customers remain nearby. As the suspects move in on the attendant, a customer suddenly steps out from beside his car and produces a firearm. The unexpected response catches the robbers off guard and disrupts the robbery. One suspect runs from the scene while the other escapes on the motorcycle. The employee remains unharmed, and the attempted robbery ends without any property being taken. Being close to a crime does not make you part of it. Recognizing danger early and moving out of the unfolding situation can prevent becoming an unintended victim. A woman waits outside a locked business, but she isn't the customer employees think she is. The front door is locked as staff work inside. A woman waits to be let in. When an employee opens the door, an armed man rushes in behind her while a 3rd suspect remains outside. The pair enter the business and begin a robbery. Employees resist, and a struggle breaks out near the entrance. Moments later, the owner appears with a firearm and shoots the armed suspect, who turns and runs from the store. Outside, he flees with the 3rd suspect who had been waiting nearby. As the wounded suspect escapes, an employee quickly shuts and locks the front door, trapping the female accomplice inside after she had moved deeper into the business. Police later confirmed the wounded armed suspect died following the confrontation. Many robberies begin with access, not force. Taking a moment to verify who is requesting entry can prevent strangers from controlling the environment. A robber orders employees to hand over cash, but one worker has a different plan. Security camera footage shows an armed robber entering a smoke shop and taking control of the room. As he issues commands, one employee remains seated near the counter, while another worker is ordered to retrieve money from behind the register area. Following the robber's instructions, the worker crouches down and moves behind the counter as if he is gathering cash. Instead, he reaches under his clothing, draws a concealed handgun, and suddenly opens fire on the unsuspecting robber. The gunman is caught completely off guard. Realizing the situation had flipped against him, he abandoned the robbery and tried to rush out, but he later fell in the shop from his injuries. Compliance doesn't always mean surrender. Criminals often assume victims are focused only on obeying orders. If possible, create distance, seek cover, and contact police. Any attempt to physically confront or engage an armed suspect carries extreme risk and can escalate the danger for everyone nearby. A man enters a neighborhood market armed with a pocket knife, but the owner isn't as defenseless as he appears. Security camera footage from a market in Burglary, Brazil, shows a man entering the store and announcing a robbery. Brandishing a pocket knife, he threatens the owner and demands money from the register. The owner initially hands over cash, but the robber remains inside and continues pressuring him for more. While appearing to comply with the robber's demands, the owner reaches beneath the counter. Instead of retrieving additional money, he draws a concealed firearm and suddenly opens fire on the suspect at close range. The robber is caught completely by surprise. After being struck, he abandons the robbery and flees the store before collapsing outside. Video recorded afterwards shows him apologizing and pleading for forgiveness, saying he has a young son and claiming the store owner knows him. Police later recovered the stolen cash, the pocket knife used in the robbery, and the motorcycle connected to the crime. Robberies can escalate rapidly when weapons are involved. Creating distance, seeking cover, and contacting police are generally the safest options, as any armed confrontation carries a significant risk of serious injury. A plainclothes federal officer is walking home when two men on a motorcycle pull up beside him, and one demands his phone at gunpoint. A neighbor's security camera captures the encounter on a residential street in La Matanza, Argentina. Two suspects arrive on a motorcycle and stop near the off-duty officer. One gets off the bike, approaches him, and allegedly points a .32 caliber revolver while demanding his cell phone. The officer appears calm and tells the robber he'll hand over the phone. But as the armed suspect moves closer, the officer suddenly draws his concealed service pistol with his other hand and fires. The suspect is struck and collapses near the curb, while the accomplice remains on the motorcycle. The armed robber passed away at the scene, and investigators recovered the revolver beside his body. The second suspect speeds away on the motorcycle and initially avoids capture. Prosecutors reportedly treated the shooting as an apparent act of self-defense. While the investigation continued, criminals often use distraction and close distance before acting. Staying aware of your surroundings, maintaining space from approaching strangers, and looking for opportunities to create distance can improve your options during a street robbery. A quiet street robbery turns violent when the victim fights back and the confrontation spills into the road. CCTV shows two people walking near parked cars when a suspect closes in and grabs at the victim, trying to overpower them in the open street. A struggle breaks out as the victim resists and pulls away. Another person nearby reacts, and the suspect suddenly loses control of the situation as the fight shifts toward the sidewalk. The suspect retreats as people move in, and the victim gets away from the immediate danger. The scene clears while authorities are called to investigate the reported robbery attempt. When a confrontation becomes physical, opportunities to disengage disappear quickly. Recognizing escalation early can help avoid becoming trapped in the conflict. A teen theft suspect runs into a Publix to escape police. Then a citizen steps in and ends the chase. In Port St. Lucie, officers identify a 15-year-old suspected in a nearby jewelry theft. When police spot him sitting near the scene, he takes off running toward a Publix. Body cam shows officers chasing him through the store aisles. As the teen tries to escape near the front, a bystander briefly stops his escape. Officers move in, secure the suspect, and take him into custody. Police say stolen items and a weapon connected to the case are recovered after the chase ends inside the busy grocery store. Good intentions can place uninvolved people into rapidly evolving situations. Understanding your role as a witness may be safer than becoming part of the event. Two men rushed a driver at his van, but what happened next caught them completely off guard. Captured on a residential CCTV camera, a man stands beside a white delivery van with the driver's door open. As he appears occupied with something inside the vehicle, two suspects suddenly sprint toward him from behind parked cars. The driver immediately fights back, kicking at one of the approaching men and trying to keep them at a distance. But with two attackers closing in, he appears outnumbered. The suspects move in, and the driver turns back toward the open van, seemingly complying with their demands. Instead of handing over valuables, the man reaches inside and pulls out a handgun. The moment the weapon appears, both suspects turn and run. As they flee, the driver fires, and one of the suspects collapses onto the roadway before attempting to get back up. Violent street robberies often unfold in seconds. Staying alert around vehicles, recognizing suspicious approaches early, and creating distance whenever possible can provide critical time to react before attackers close the gap. Two robbers thought they had trapped everyone inside a jewelry store until the man standing by the exit pulled a gun. Security footage from a jewelry store in Santo Domingo, Dominican Republic, shows two suspects entering the business during an attempted robbery. According to reports, the store's security door closed behind them, leaving them trapped inside. As they looked for a way out, the suspects confronted a store employee positioned near the entrance. Believing they could overpower him and force an escape, they moved toward him aggressively. What they did not know was that the employee was armed. He drew a handgun and fired, striking one of the suspects. One suspect collapsed inside the store, while the second fled after the door was opened. Reports indicate the wounded suspect later died, and authorities took the surviving suspect into custody as the investigation continued. Controlled access points, secure barriers, and immediate communication with police can help limit a robber's options and create valuable time during an emergency. A firefighter had just climbed into his car when two thieves moved in from different directions. Surveillance footage from Quilmes, Argentina, shows a city firefighter walking to his parked Peugeot 207 on Christmas Eve morning. He got into the driver's seat and remained inside after the vehicle failed to start. Moments later, two suspects converged on the car. One approached on foot, while the other arrived on a motorcycle and stopped nearby. The motorcyclist stayed outside the vehicle while his accomplice rushed to the driver's side, opened the door, and climbed into the car in an apparent attempt to force the firefighter out and steal the vehicle. Realizing he was being carjacked at close range, the firefighter drew his service pistol and fired at the suspect inside the car. The carjacker was struck and collapsed beside the vehicle. As shots rang out, the second suspect abandoned the motorcycle and fled on foot, escaping the scene. The firefighter survived the attack, and authorities later reported that the shooting was treated as an act of self-defense. Vehicle robberies can develop in seconds. Staying aware of people approaching from different directions and keeping your doors secured whenever possible can buy valuable reaction time during an encounter. A woman trying to get through a locked gate suddenly found herself fighting to keep hold of her bag. Surveillance footage shows a woman standing outside a building entrance, attempting to get someone's attention from behind a closed gate. As she waited, a man approached and appeared to engage her in conversation near the doorway. Without warning, the encounter turned into an attempted robbery. The man grabbed the woman's bag and tried to pull it away from her. She refused to let go, and a struggle broke out on the sidewalk as both fought for control of the bag. The woman continued resisting despite being pulled and shoved during the confrontation. The commotion attracted the attention of nearby bystanders, including several women who rushed over to help. They intervened in the struggle, allowing the victim to break free while confronting the suspect. As more people joined in, the would-be robber lost control of the situation. He attempted to flee, but not before being grabbed and pulled by members of the crowd. The suspect eventually managed to escape and run from the scene empty-handed. Robbers often rely on isolating a victim and acting before anyone can react. Making noise, drawing attention, and moving toward other people can disrupt an attack and increase the chances of getting help quickly. A restaurant owner stepped outside near closing time when 3 armed men rushed in from a black SUV and launched a robbery attempt. Security footage shows a black Toyota SUV parked outside a chicken restaurant in the Dominican Republic for several minutes before the attack. As closing time approached, the owner stepped outside and began lowering the storefront security shutters one by one. After the owner lowered one shutter and moved to the next, the suspect suddenly exited the SUV and rushed toward him. The owner tried to react as the suspects closed in around him, leading to a brief but chaotic confrontation. During the struggle, gunfire erupted, sending people scrambling for cover. One attacker can be seen moving away as the victim collapses near the curb. The suspects fled the scene moments later, leaving the restaurant owner behind. He was transported to a hospital but was later declared deceased. Authorities later identified a suspect and launched a manhunt as investigators worked to track down the rest of the group involved in the robbery. Armed robberies can unfold in seconds and often become unpredictable. If escape is possible, creating distance and seeking cover is usually safer than remaining within reach of the attackers. 2 robbers smashed their way into a convenience store, unaware that a police officer was inside. Store surveillance video shows 2 suspects breaking into an OXXO convenience store after midnight. One of the robbers climbed through a shattered window. As the break-in unfolded, a police officer who had stopped at the store and was using the restroom was still on the premises. When the officer exited the bathroom, he immediately realized an armed crime was in progress. He saw the suspect inside the store and quickly intervened before the situation could escalate further. The officer fired, striking one of the robbers. The suspect collapsed at the scene and was later pronounced dead. Authorities also reported seeing a green motorcycle leaving the area, suggesting the second robber escaped before police secured the scene. Break-ins can unfold in seconds. If you encounter intruders, prioritize distance, barriers, and escape routes whenever possible. Alert authorities immediately and avoid pursuing fleeing suspects unless absolutely necessary for safety. A masked robber thought he had complete control of the restaurant until he overlooked one person. Restaurant security footage shows a masked gunman entering the business during the early morning hours and immediately taking control of the dining area. The first person he encounters is a young boy. Pointing his weapon at the child, the robber orders him to get on the ground and stay down. Frightened, the boy calls out for his mother, drawing the robber's attention to the rest of the family inside the restaurant. The gunman then orders the boy's mother to join him on the floor, forcing both of them to comply while he continues issuing threats. Believing everyone inside is under his control, the robber focuses on managing the victims and maintaining dominance over the room. What he does not realize is that the boy's father, the restaurant owner, is nearby and legally armed. As the robber concentrates on the family, the owner emerges from another area of the restaurant with a firearm. Surveillance footage indicates there is little to no verbal confrontation before the owner opens fire. The gunman is struck and collapses inside the restaurant, ending the robbery almost instantly. Emergency services are called, but the suspect dies at the scene while investigators later review the circumstances surrounding the shooting. Criminals often assume fear guarantees compliance, but unpredictable factors can change a situation in an instant. This incident highlights how quickly a robbery can escalate when offenders threaten multiple victims, including children and family members. 2 helmeted robbers thought they had a defenseless victim cornered until someone nearby decided to intervene. The security footage begins after the robbery is already underway. One helmeted robber is inside the snack bar confronting the owner, while his accomplice remains just outside near the entrance. With the victim under pressure, the robbers appear focused on searching through belongings and taking valuables while keeping control of the scene. As one of the robbers continues rummaging through a bag, believing the victim is completely at their mercy, an unexpected figure suddenly enters the confrontation. A bystander rushes toward the suspects and attacks one of them with a machete, catching the robbers completely off guard before they can finish the crime or make their escape. The surprise counterattack instantly throws the robbery into chaos. During the confrontation, one of the robbers suffers a devastating injury to his hand. The pair immediately abandon the scene and flee, leaving behind clear evidence of the violent encounter. Robberies can change direction without warning when victims or bystanders choose to intervene. What begins as a seemingly controlled crime can rapidly escalate into a dangerous and unpredictable confrontation for everyone involved. A masked thief thought he had found an easy target inside a quiet cafe until a worker behind the counter sprang into action. Captured on the cafe's security camera, the incident begins when a masked man walks inside and heads straight for a customer's backpack. Before he can leave with it, a cafe employee notices what is happening and rushes out from behind the counter to stop him. The suspect immediately fights back, turning the attempted theft into a physical struggle. The two men exchange punches as they wrestle across the cafe floor. During the fight, the suspect sprays bear mace directly at the employee, temporarily affecting his vision and breathing. Despite the spray, the worker refuses to let go and continues grappling with the thief as tables and chairs are knocked around. Just as the struggle appears evenly matched, a passerby who had spotted the commotion through the cafe window rushes inside to help. Together, the bystander and cafe worker force the suspect to the ground and hold him there while waiting for police to arrive. Officers eventually take the suspect into custody, bringing the chaotic attempted robbery to an end. Crimes that seem over in seconds can quickly escalate into dangerous confrontations. Even when suspects use force or weapons to escape, coordinated action and a rapid police response can help bring an incident under control. A family was resting inside their home when masked intruders quietly slipped into the property and began searching for valuables. According to reports and CCTV footage, two masked thieves targeted a house in Muar, Malaysia during the afternoon. One suspect climbed over the electric gate and entered the property, while an accomplice backed a white sedan into the garage. Inside the home, a woman and a child were resting in the living room, unaware that the intruders had already begun moving through the house and searching for valuables. The robbery unraveled when the male homeowner unexpectedly returned home. Realizing they had been discovered, the suspects rushed out of the house and headed back toward their getaway car. As they tried to escape, the homeowner and another man confronted them near the vehicle. The suspects allegedly brandished knives while repeatedly moving the car forward and backward in an effort to break free. During the chaos, the homeowner managed to yank hard on the passenger side door, damaging it, but the suspects continued fighting to get away. Despite the homeowner's efforts and the attention drawn from nearby residents, the thieves eventually managed to escape in the damaged vehicle. CCTV footage of the incident later circulated online, prompting public concern and a police investigation into the armed home invasion and robbery. Home invasions can escalate rapidly when suspects realize they have been detected, creating layers of security, staying alert to unusual activity around the property, and reporting suspicious behavior immediately can help reduce opportunities for criminals to gain access to a home. A phone store robbery appeared over in seconds, but the suspect had no idea the owner was armed. Security footage from a cell phone store in Belo Horizonte, Brazil, shows a man entering the shop while posing as a customer. He approached the counter and interacted with the owner. According to reports, the suspect then pulled out a handgun, threatened the store owner, and stole several cell phones before heading toward the exit. Believing he had successfully completed the robbery, the suspect turned and ran for the doorway with the stolen items. But as he rushed outside, the store owner retrieved a legally owned firearm from behind the counter. The owner immediately fired 2 shots from inside the store toward the suspect. The suspect was struck in the back and later hospitalized, where he underwent surgery while remaining in police custody. Authorities reported that the store owner possessed legal documentation for the firearm used during the incident. Even when a robbery appears to be ending, situations can change in an instant. Prioritizing personal safety, maintaining awareness of escape routes, and reporting crimes promptly can help reduce the risk of further harm during high-stress incidents. What looked like an ordinary customer arrival was actually the start of a deadly bank robbery. CCTV footage from a Zenith Bank branch in Owerri, Nigeria, showed a dark sedan pulling up to the bank's entrance. Believing it was a normal visitor, the gate attendant opened the gate and allowed the vehicle inside. As soon as the car entered the compound, several armed robbers jumped out carrying firearms. Realizing the danger, the gate attendant immediately fled the area while the robbers advanced toward the bank. Before the robbers could force their way into the bank, they encountered armed police officers stationed on the premises. A gun battle erupted almost immediately as officers exchanged fire with the attackers. The robbers attempted to push forward, but the unexpected resistance slowed their advance and turned the robbery into a firefight. Unable to overcome the police response, the robbers abandoned their attempt to enter the bank. They rushed back to their waiting vehicle and sped away from the scene. Reports later confirmed that two police officers, Sergeant Chukwudi Iboko and Sergeant Sunday Agbo, were killed during the exchange, while another officer, Sergeant Otu Atang, was seriously injured. Authorities later announced honors and support for the affected officers and their families. If armed individuals are spotted during what appears to be a robbery, creating distance and seeking immediate cover is often safer than remaining in open areas. A robber thought he had cornered a car wash worker until he discovered he had trapped himself instead. Late at night, a hooded robber entered a car wash and confronted an employee with a handgun. The criminal threatened the worker and demanded money while keeping him under control. However, during the encounter, the employee quietly used a remote control to shut the facility's large rolling exit door. The robber did not notice the gate closing and continued escorting the worker toward the office to search for valuables. After taking what he wanted, the robber attempted to leave the car wash, but when he reached the exit, he discovered the gate was completely shut. He repeatedly tried to lift the door and force it open, only to realize he was trapped inside the building. At that moment, the employee revealed that he was armed as well and emerged from inside the facility. Keeping his weapon trained on the robber, he informed him that escape was no longer possible. With nowhere to run and under the watch of the armed employee, the robber lost control of the situation. According to reports accompanying the footage, the worker forced the would-be thief to wash and clean vehicles while waiting for authorities to arrive. Security features such as remote-controlled gates, locked access points, and controlled exits can delay suspects and create time for help to arrive. When possible, maintaining distance and using physical barriers is generally safer than directly confronting an armed offender. Two armed robbers stormed into this convenience store, expecting total control until one employee brought their plan to a sudden halt. CCTV footage from inside the store showed employees working behind the counter while customers moved through the aisles. The situation changed when two armed robbers entered and immediately split up. One suspect remained near the customer area with a handgun, while his accomplice moved behind the counter and pointed a weapon directly at a store worker. With both men covering different positions, the robbery appeared to be unfolding exactly as planned. As the robbers focused on intimidating the people inside the store, the employee suddenly reacted. He rushed the gunman who had crossed behind the counter and managed to overpower him during a struggle. The suspect was forced to the ground as the employee gained control of the confrontation. Seeing his accomplice pinned down and the robbery falling apart, the second robber immediately lost his nerve and began backing away from the scene. Rather than helping his partner, the second suspect fled from the store and abandoned the robbery. The employee maintained control over the subdued gunman and secured the situation until the confrontation ended. What began as a coordinated armed robbery quickly collapsed when one victim refused to surrender control of the encounter. Armed robberies are highly unpredictable and can escalate without warning. Maintaining awareness of exits, creating distance whenever possible, and contacting authorities as soon as it is safe to do so can help reduce the risk of injury. Four men walked into the bank, appearing to be ordinary customers, then carried out a coordinated robbery that caught everyone inside by surprise. CCTV footage showed normal banking activity inside a busy bank lobby. Customers waited in seating areas while employees worked behind the counters, and a police officer was stationed inside the building. The calm atmosphere changed when two men entered the bank and approached the cashier's area. Moments later, two more accomplices walked in and positioned themselves around the lobby, appearing at first to be regular visitors. Once all four suspects were in place, they simultaneously revealed concealed weapons and took control of the bank. The sudden display of force shocked customers and staff, leaving little time to react. The robbers quickly moved to neutralize the police officer inside the bank, disarming him and forcing him into a corner to prevent any resistance. With the officer no longer a threat, the suspects spread through the lobby, intimidating everyone present and demanding valuables from customers and employees. After securing control of the bank, the robbers collected cash and personal belongings from the people inside. The victims complied, while the armed suspects maintained control of the situation. Having obtained what they wanted, the four robbers exited the bank and fled the scene before authorities could intervene. When armed robbers take control of a location, the primary goal should be preserving life rather than protecting money or property. Remaining calm, avoiding sudden movements, and complying with demands can reduce the likelihood of escalation. A robber tried to intimidate a shop employee, then lost control of the situation in an instant. CCTV showed a suspect approaching a business counter and confronting an employee at close range. The robber appeared to threaten the worker while demanding valuables. Instead of remaining passive, the employee suddenly grabbed for the weapon and engaged the suspect in a struggle across the counter. The unexpected resistance disrupted the robbery attempt. Unable to regain control, the robber abandoned the confrontation and fled without getting what he wanted. The entire incident was captured on surveillance cameras. Resisting an armed robber carries significant risk. Whenever possible, prioritize personal safety, create distance, and look for opportunities to escape rather than engage physically. Armed robbers stormed a gun shop expecting an easy score, but they picked the worst possible target. CCTV footage showed a gun store owner sitting while another man sat nearby. Moments later, armed suspects entered the shop and launched a robbery, attempting to catch the occupants off guard. The robbers opened fire and reportedly wounded the owner. Despite being hit, the shop owner immediately drew his own firearm and returned fire, turning the robbery into a tense battle inside the store. One suspect was wounded at the scene while another escaped with accomplices waiting outside. Authorities later tracked down and arrested the surviving suspects. The injured store owner survived the attack and was reported to be out of danger. Businesses that handle high-value or regulated merchandise can attract armed criminals. Security planning, surveillance systems, controlled access, and rapid emergency response procedures can help reduce risks during violent incidents. A robber reached for a gun inside a shop, but the owner spotted the move before the weapon ever came up. CCTV footage showed a man inside a retail store pretending to be a customer while speaking with the shop owner at the counter. The interaction appeared normal until the suspect suddenly made a move that raised the alarm. As the man attempted to draw a firearm, the shop owner reacted immediately. Recognizing the threat, he drew his own weapon and confronted the suspect before the robbery could fully unfold. Caught off guard by the owner's rapid response, the suspect abandoned the attempt and tried to flee but fell on the scene. The failed robbery was captured on the store's surveillance cameras, highlighting how quickly the situation changed. Situational awareness can provide valuable seconds during a developing threat. Paying attention to unusual behavior, maintaining visibility of customers' hands, and having emergency procedures in place can improve response options during a robbery attempt. A woman tries running from a robber on a motorcycle, then a passing driver interrupts the escape. Security cameras show a woman walking along the street when a motorcyclist pulls up and grabs for her bag. She runs, but the robber jumps off the bike, chases her on foot, steals the bag, and rushes back to the motorcycle. As the suspect attempts to escape, a white car spots the robbery and swerves toward the motorcycle. The driver strikes the motorcycle multiple times, disrupting the getaway and disrupting the suspect's attempt to flee several times. Despite the collisions, the robber eventually restarts the motorcycle and flees empty-handed, while the white car reverses and follows behind as witnesses begin calling police. Once offenders begin fleeing, the victim's priorities change. Preserving observations, descriptions, and evidence often becomes more valuable than pursuing the suspect. 4 robbers jumped out of a red car and tried to rob a detective's home, but the plan unraveled almost immediately. A residential security camera captures a white SUV arriving at the home of a newly married detective couple. Moments later, a red car pulls up nearby and 4 suspects rush out. Instead of going straight for the house, the group appears to target the white SUV parked outside as part of the robbery attempt. One robber gets into the white SUV and tries to take control of it. The detectives react immediately, rushing outside to confront the suspects. During the chaos, one detective and others manage to grab hold of one of the robbers and drag him to the ground. At the same time, the bride struggles with the suspect inside the SUV, but he manages to overpower her and drive off in the stolen vehicle. With one suspect pinned down and another escaping in the SUV, the remaining robbers try to rescue their captured accomplice. The red car repeatedly moves forward and backward near the struggle, apparently attempting to create an opening for him to escape. Meanwhile, the bride and several neighbors rush toward the vehicle, forcing the suspects to abandon their efforts. One robber is ultimately detained, while the others flee the scene. Criminals often rely on overwhelming victims before help arrives. In this case, immediate resistance, multiple people responding at once, and neighbors joining the confrontation disrupted the robbery and prevented the suspects from carrying out their original plan. A would-be carjacker yanked open a vehicle door, expecting an easy victim, only to be met with immediate resistance from the driver inside. CCTV footage captured a white hatchback parked along a quiet street at night, with its driver still seated inside. As the vehicle remained stationary, a man suddenly approached from the sidewalk and moved directly toward the passenger side of the car. Without hesitation, he opened the door and appeared to confront the occupant inside, catching the driver by surprise. The encounter unfolded within seconds and left little time for anyone nearby to react. The suspect appeared to believe he had gained the advantage when he opened the passenger door and moved toward the driver. Instead, the vehicle owner immediately responded to the threat. The confrontation was abruptly reversed as the driver produced a firearm and fired at the attacker. The unexpected response stopped the robbery attempt almost instantly and sent the suspect collapsing beside the vehicle. The wounded robber fell to the ground near the open passenger door and was no longer able to continue the attack. After the threat appeared neutralized, the driver exited the vehicle while maintaining awareness of the suspect's movements. Standing a short distance away, he kept the robber covered while assessing the situation and preventing any further aggression. The attempted robbery ended within moments and was captured on surveillance cameras. Parking areas and vehicles can be targeted because occupants are often distracted while entering, exiting, or sitting inside their cars. Keeping doors locked, remaining aware of surroundings, and avoiding distractions can reduce vulnerability to surprise approaches. A gunman forces a supermarket employee to the floor in Brazil, but a cashier behind the counter reaches for a hidden firearm. Security footage from Blumenau, Brazil, shows an armed robber entering a supermarket and approaching an employee from behind. The suspect points a gun at the worker's back, forces him onto the ground, and searches him while nearby employees freeze. As the robber focuses on the employee, a female cashier behind the counter draws a firearm and fires at the suspect from behind the counter. The suspect goes down while another employee secures the weapon. Police later confirmed the suspect later died from injuries. Authorities treated the cashier's actions as self-defense under Brazilian law. If faced with an armed robbery, prioritize your safety. Stay calm, avoid sudden movements, and focus on getting yourself and others to safety whenever possible. Armed robbers stormed into a mobile phone store expecting a quick score, only to discover someone had locked them inside with nowhere to run. CCTV footage showed business operating normally inside a mobile phone shop when several armed suspects entered the store. The robbers quickly moved behind the counters and began threatening employees while attempting to seize phones and other valuables. With weapons visible and the suspects spreading through the small shop, the workers appeared trapped and outmatched as the robbery got underway. While the robbery was in progress, an unexpected development unfolded outside the store. Someone noticed the crime and pulled down the shop's security shutter, sealing the entrance and exit. The suspects suddenly realized they were no longer free to leave. Instead of focusing on stealing merchandise, the robbers began looking for a way out as the situation rapidly shifted against them. What started as a planned robbery had turned into a trap. The trapped suspects were unable to make the quick escape they had anticipated. As the shutter remained closed, they found themselves confined inside the very store they had targeted. The workers gained valuable time while the robbers struggled with their unexpected predicament. The failed robbery and the suspect's confinement were captured on the store's surveillance cameras, transforming the attempted theft into an embarrassing setback for the offenders. Businesses can improve security by combining surveillance systems, controlled entry points, and emergency procedures that delay offenders and create time for authorities to respond. A masked robber stormed into a phone store with a gun and grenade, but the entire robbery collapsed when workers grabbed his weapon and blasted him with a fire extinguisher. Inside a mobile phone store in St. Petersburg, Russia, a masked suspect entered the shop carrying a handgun while demanding access to the register. CCTV footage shows employees backing away as the suspect tried to control the store. The robbery suddenly flipped when a female manager grabbed the suspect's firearm during the chaos. Seconds later, another worker discharged a fire extinguisher toward the suspect while chairs and objects were thrown across the store. Surrounded by smoke and confusion, the suspect backed away from the counter and rushed out of the shop empty-handed. Police later responded after staff activated a hidden alarm system. A street robbery in Brazil instantly collapsed when the victim fought back, grabbed the suspect's gun, and sent the motorcycle crashing onto the road. On a quiet street in Brazil, a man was walking along the roadside at night when two helmeted suspects on a motorcycle stopped beside him. After taking his phone, one of the suspects began collecting the victim's wallet while the motorcycle remained idling nearby. The moment the suspect focused on the wallet, the victim suddenly attacked and grabbed the weapon. As they struggled beside the motorcycle, the bike lost balance and slammed onto the roadway. CCTV footage captured the entire robbery unraveling within seconds as one of the suspects fell on the scene while the other fled the area on the motorcycle while being chased by the victim after the failed encounter. Do not stay distracted during a robbery approach around motorcycles and weapons. Distance and awareness can change everything fast. A robbery collapsed the second the victims fought back and the suspects rushed for the exit. In Osasco, São Paulo, Brazil, two suspects on a motorcycle entered a parking area beside a parked car, while two accomplices waited at the gate on another bike. Together, they moved in to rob a man inside the car and another on a motorcycle. The motorcyclist suddenly struggled with the suspects, forcing the confrontation toward the gate. As the chaos unfolded, the man from the car stood up, grabbed a firearm from the vehicle, and fired toward the suspects. The suspects abandoned the robbery and sped away from the parking lot on the motorcycles. Personal safety is more important than property. If threatened during a robbery, create distance when you can, avoid unnecessary risks, and seek assistance from authorities as soon as it is safe. A heated argument inside the gas station suddenly switched into a shooting scene at the entrance. In Philadelphia's Fairmount section at night, a man entered a Phillips 66 gas station where a private security guard confronted him and ordered him to leave. The argument escalated near the doorway as the man reached for a firearm and exchanged gunfire with the security guard inside the store. Police later released surveillance footage as investigators worked to identify everyone involved in the confrontation. Never, ever let verbal confrontations escalate around armed environments. Four robbers rushed a gated driveway. Then, the SUV slammed into their getaway car and burst through the ambush. In Mexico City's Linda Vista neighborhood, a man was reversing his SUV into his garage when another vehicle suddenly stopped outside the gate. Four suspects jumped out and rushed toward the entrance, but the driver accelerated straight through the closing gate and slammed into the robber's vehicle while forcing an escape path open. The damaged getaway vehicle stalled in the street as the suspects scattered on foot, and the SUV sped away from the scene. Keep a clear escape path during a robbery attempt. Confined spaces and blocked exits can turn a vehicle into a trap within seconds. A thief pulled bags from a parked Range Rover before police swerved in and knocked him off his getaway bike. On a quiet West London street, a lone suspect stopped beside a parked Range Rover on a bicycle and began pulling bags and valuables from inside the vehicle while the street appeared empty. CCTV operators spotted the theft and alerted police immediately. As the suspect tried to pedal away with the stolen items, a police van moved into his path and knocked the bike sideways, stopping the escape. The suspect lost control beside the police vehicle and officers quickly moved in before he could continue fleeing with the stolen property. Report suspicious activity around parked vehicles immediately. Fast surveillance response and coordinated action can stop theft attempts before suspects disappear. In an Antioch grocery store parking lot, a getaway car slammed patrol vehicles before speeding off with an officer trapped inside. Police responded to an armed robbery after suspects crashed through a grocery store entrance with a vehicle. As officers arrived, one suspect rushed back to the getaway car and tried to escape the scene. The suspect rushed into a patrol car, then accelerated forward again while an officer reached into the vehicle during the stop attempt. The car sped away through city streets, with the officer still trapped inside as commands to stop were ignored during the pursuit. The fleeing vehicle eventually crashed into a parked car in a residential area. The suspect ran from the wreckage but was later located hiding nearby and taken into custody after the pursuit ended. Do maintain vehicle containment and clear escape path control during high-risk stops. Sudden acceleration and uncontrolled movement can rapidly turn a traffic stop into a dangerous pursuit. 3 masked robbers storm into a pharmacy, but one suddenly freezes when an armed officer pulls a gun first. Security cameras in southern Italy captured 3 masked suspects entering a pharmacy during an attempted robbery. Believing the store would be an easy target, the group rushed inside while customers and staff stood nearby. Moments after entering, the robbers realize an off-duty police officer is inside the pharmacy. The officer quickly draws his weapon, forcing the suspects to panic and retreat before the robbery can unfold. 2 suspects flee from the pharmacy, but a third robber freezes in confusion and surrenders to the armed officer at the scene. Authorities later arrested the suspect in the city of Bari and reviewed the footage as the failed robbery spread online. During armed robberies, immediate compliance with law enforcement commands and creating distance from danger can help prevent further violence. An armed motorcyclist tries to rob a man on a quiet street, but the target turns out to be an off-duty police officer. Security cameras in southern São Paulo captured a motorcycle suspect approaching a man during the morning hours. Investigators say the suspect announced a robbery while armed and attempted to confront the victim beside parked vehicles. The victim, later identified as an off-duty military police officer, immediately reacts and exchanges gunfire with the suspect. The motorcyclist loses control, crashes onto the pavement, and drops his weapon during the confrontation. Footage shows the wounded suspect raising his hands, while the officer kicks the gun away and keeps him covered until help arrives. Authorities later confirmed the suspect did not make it at a hospital while the officer was unharmed. Investigators ruled the shooting self-defense. During armed confrontations, seeking cover and contacting emergency services as quickly as possible are critical for survival. 3 suspects rush a driver arriving home, but the attempted carjacking suddenly falls apart when the victim fights back. Security cameras in Americana, Brazil, captured a family arriving home in a white Hyundai HB20 when a dark vehicle stopped nearby. Moments later, 2 suspects approach the driver's side as the family begins getting out of the car. As one suspect attempts to pull the driver from the vehicle, the victim quickly reacts and forces the group to retreat. The confrontation sends the suspect scrambling away from the scene within seconds. Footage shows 2 suspects fleeing down the street, while another remains behind and is later taken into custody by responding authorities. The family escapes the incident, and nearby residents begin gathering outside after hearing the commotion. During attempted vehicle robberies, staying alert during arrivals, maintaining space from suspicious vehicles, and quickly seeking safety can help reduce danger during fast-moving confrontations. 2 masked robbers rush into a Texas gold shop expecting an easy robbery, but the store owner reacts instantly and sends them running for the exit. Security cameras inside a Cash for Gold store in Mesquite, Texas captured 2 suspects entering the business during the evening hours. Investigators say the pair approached the counter, while one appeared to threaten the owner with a handgun. The shop owner quickly moved behind the counter and responded with his own legally owned firearm, forcing the suspects to retreat almost immediately. The sudden resistance caused both suspects to abandon the attempted robbery and sprint back outside. Footage shows the pair fleeing through the front entrance within seconds as the owner remains inside the store unharmed. Police later confirmed no injuries were reported during the attempted robbery. During armed robbery situations, seeking cover and contacting emergency services immediately remain the safest priorities for employees and customers. A masked gunman thought a group of spring breakers would hand everything over, but the tables turned late at night at a gas station in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. A group of cousins and brothers from Indiana stopped to refuel after a night out. Investigators say a masked suspect approached the group, displayed a handgun, and demanded their valuables beside the pumps. Instead of backing away, several members of the group quickly grabbed the suspect and wrestled him away from the vehicle. The sudden resistance disrupted the attempted robbery as the group struggled to control the weapon and pushed the suspect back. Surveillance footage shows the confrontation spilling around the gas pumps before the suspect eventually breaks free and runs from the scene. Authorities later launched an investigation into the attempted robbery, and no serious injuries were reported. Staying aware of escape routes remain the safest priorities whenever possible. A suspected carjacker approached a parked vehicle in broad daylight, but within seconds, the encounter turned deadly on a quiet Argentina street. Authorities in Avellaneda, Buenos Aires province, said a retired federal police officer was sitting inside his Peugeot 408 when two men allegedly moved toward the vehicle in an apparent robbery attempt. Surveillance cameras captured the street moments before the confrontation unfolded. Footage appears to show one suspect approaching the driver's side window before gunfire erupts from inside the car. One man collapses near the curb, while another individual quickly flees the area as the retired officer exits the vehicle moments later. Prosecutors reportedly reviewed the shooting as a possible self-defense case after one suspect died and another fled the scene. If confronted near your vehicle, prioritize distance, awareness, and contacting emergency services immediately. An armed robber thought he had an easy score until the store clerk blasted him with pepper spray. Security footage from a liquor store in Guanajuato shows a masked man pretending to browse before suddenly pulling a handgun and demanding cash from the young employee. As the clerk opened the register, she waited for the suspect to lower his guard, then sprayed him with pepper spray. The blinded robber dropped the gun and sprinted out of the store empty-handed, while the clerk called for help. During a robbery, creating distance and escaping to safety is usually safer than confronting the suspect. Two suspects pulled up outside a small grocery store expecting an easy robbery, but seconds later, one came flying back out through the storefront window. CCTV footage from Brazil showed two suspects arriving on a motorcycle outside a neighborhood grocery store. One suspect entered the store, while the other waited outside on the bike for a quick getaway. Inside the store, the armed suspect confronted the owner, but the robbery immediately went wrong. The grocery store owner fought back, overpowered the suspect, and forcefully threw him out through the front window as customers and bystanders reacted in shock. The injured suspect scrambled away from the storefront and fled with the waiting accomplice on the motorcycle as the failed robbery unraveled in full view of the street. Robberies can escalate violently within seconds. During armed confrontations, creating distance, escaping danger, and contacting emergency services are the safest priorities whenever possible. A man suddenly rushed toward a woman walking alone at night, but he had no idea she was an off-duty police officer. CCTV footage from São Paulo, Brazil, showed a suspect pulling his vehicle alongside a woman crossing the street at night. Moments later, he jumped out and aggressively moved toward her in an apparent attempted attack. The woman immediately recognized the danger and stepped backward as the suspect tried grabbing her. She quickly drew her firearm and responded within seconds during the encounter. Authorities reported the suspect later died from injuries sustained during the confrontation. The off-duty policewoman survived the attack without serious injury. Situational awareness and quick reactions can be critical during sudden attacks. If confronted, prioritize escaping danger and contacting emergency services as quickly as possible. family walking home suddenly found themselves trapped by armed suspects on a motorcycle, but the father was hiding a major advantage. CCTV footage from Diadema, São Paulo showed a man walking with his wife and child after shopping when two suspects on a motorcycle approached them and appeared ready to rob the family. As one suspect pulled a gun and pointed it toward the family, the father quickly revealed he was an off-duty police officer. He immediately drew his firearm and exchanged gunfire while his wife and child hid around for cover. The suspects abandoned the attack and fled the area moments later as the family survived the armed confrontation. In dangerous situations, staying alert, protecting loved ones, and creating space from the threat can improve your chances of escape and survival. A group of friends was enjoying a late-night meal when two armed robbers stormed the restaurant, but one customer instantly fought back. CCTV footage from Goiânia, Brazil shows several friends eating outside a small restaurant when two suspects suddenly arrived on a motorcycle. One robber jumped off armed while the second waited on the bike nearby. As terrified customers dove under tables for cover, one diner revealed himself to be an off-duty police officer and quickly returned fire, forcing the suspects to retreat during the chaotic exchange. After several shots were exchanged, the robbers fled the scene empty-handed, while the customers remained unharmed behind cover. During armed violence, taking cover immediately and staying low can reduce the risk of injury. Two armed robbers walked into a jewelry store ready to steal valuables, but within seconds, the terrified suspects were the ones running away. Security footage from a jewelry store in Messina, Sicily, shows the owner assisting a customer when two masked suspects entered the shop. One suspect moved toward the back, while the other started grabbing jewelry from the counter and stuffing it into a backpack. The robbery suddenly changed when the jewelry store owner reappeared from the back room holding a firearm and aggressively advanced toward the suspects inside the store. Caught completely off guard, both suspects immediately abandoned the robbery and sprinted out of the store before escaping on a scooter parked outside. During violent crimes, creating distance, staying aware of exits, and alerting authorities can help protect lives. Two armed robbery suspects tried escaping on motorcycles, but a police patrol suddenly cut them off before they could flee. Security footage from Quevedo, Ecuador, shows two armed suspects standing beside motorcycles moments after an apparent robbery attempt. Witnesses nearby began backing away as one suspect reportedly fired shots before trying to escape. As the suspects attempted to speed off on the motorcycles, a police patrol intercepted them in the street, triggering a collision beside the curb. Both suspects were thrown from the motorcycles during the impact, and authorities later confirmed that one suspect passed away during the police operation. During armed incidents, creating distance immediately and avoiding active confrontation can reduce the risk of being caught in the violence. A robber walked into a Colombian hotel, expecting terrified victims, but the guests suddenly chased him down instead. Surveillance footage from a hotel in Cartagena, Colombia, shows a masked suspect entering the lobby and confronting several guests while appearing to carry a weapon. As the suspect focused on one victim, one of the employees rushed him, then more people gathered him from multiple directions, forcing him into a struggle near the hallway. The group managed to overpower the suspect and hold him at the hotel until police arrived and arrested the 22-year-old man. During violent situations, quickly alerting others nearby and moving together can sometimes help disrupt a crime and protect potential victims. A robber stormed into a convenience store with a gun drawn. Then an off-duty officer reacted before anyone could panic. Security footage shows a man approaching the checkout counter inside a small store while customers and employees appeared unaware of the danger. The suspect suddenly pulled a handgun, but an off-duty police officer near the register immediately drew his own weapon and confronted him at point-blank range. The armed suspect collapsed during the confrontation, and the attempted robbery ended within seconds before anyone inside the store was harmed. Staying alert to suspicious behavior can create valuable reaction time during dangerous situations. A woman walking alone down a dark street suddenly realized a man was sprinting straight toward her. Security footage from São Paulo, Brazil, shows the woman walking near parked cars late at night as a man suddenly jumped out and closed the distance fast. The attacker tried grabbing her, but the off-duty police officer quickly sidestepped him, created space, and drew her firearm. The suspect collapsed in the roadway, while the officer backed away and stayed alert until the danger was over. Recognizing danger early and creating distance can be critical during sudden attack. A man eating alone at Taco Bell suddenly felt someone reaching for his phone from behind. Security footage from Queens, New York shows a suspected thief sneaking up behind a 28-year-old attorney while he sat near the front window during lunch. The thief grabbed the phone, but the attorney instantly trapped his arm, flipped him backward, and dragged him to the floor. The suspect crashed through the chairs as the victim calmly held him down until the struggle ended. Staying calm and reacting quickly can completely disrupt an opportunistic theft. A cash guard walked out carrying money bags when armed robbers suddenly charged straight at him. Security footage from a shopping center in South Africa shows a G4S guard leaving a store with a cash canister as multiple armed suspects moved in from both sides. Before the robbers could surround him, the guard instantly drew his weapon and fired while backing away through the entrance. One suspect crashed into a trolley, while the others scattered, and the guard escaped the ambush with the cash container still in hand. Awareness and fast reactions can break an ambush before attackers gain control. A masked robber rushes into a Florida gas station, but the clerk physically confronts the suspect. Surveillance video from Mims, Florida shows a masked man entering a gas station carrying what appeared to be a handgun. The suspect corners the clerk near the register and demands cash while forcing him around the counter. The clerk, a military veteran, waits for the robber to look away before grabbing the weapon and tackling him. The two wrestle through the store as the clerk strikes the suspect and forces him toward the entrance. The robber eventually breaks free and runs from the store empty-handed. Deputies later said the weapon was an airsoft gun, and investigators searched for the suspect afterward. Victims rarely know whether a weapon is real during the encounter. Treating uncertain threats as genuine helps avoid decisions based on assumptions rather than facts. Two robbers pull up beside a parked car on a motorcycle, then the driver suddenly accelerates to escape. Late at night, on a quiet street, a car sits parked near the curb when a motorcycle carrying two suspects rolls up alongside the driver's side, preparing for a robbery. The moment the bike stops, the driver reacts. The car surges forward, striking the motorcycle and knocking both suspects off balance before accelerating away from the scene. The motorcycle collapses in the roadway, with both suspects left behind as the car disappears down the street. Nearby residents begin looking outside while authorities are later notified about the attempted robbery. Vehicles provide an advantage that pedestrians do not have: immediate mobility. Recognizing escape opportunities early can prevent a developing threat from becoming a direct encounter. Two suspects thought they had an easy motorcycle theft until the owner suddenly charged outside and fought back. CCTV footage shows one suspect waiting on a motorcycle outside a house while another rolled a second motorcycle out from inside the compound in an apparent theft attempt. As the suspects prepared to leave, the homeowner rushed out and started struggling with them near the gate, forcing both men into panic. The suspects abandoned both motorcycles and ran from the scene empty-handed moments later. Quick attention to suspicious activity and alerting others nearby can sometimes interrupt a crime before suspects escape. An alleged hitman approached a parked car expecting an easy target, but the attack was over almost as soon as it began. CCTV footage showed a white car parked outside a residence while an alleged member of Colombia's National Protection Unit, UNP, prepared to leave. As the vehicle waited near the curb, a man approached on foot and moved toward the passenger side of the car. According to reports, the approaching suspect suddenly drew a firearm and attempted to launch an attack. The intended target reacted immediately from inside the vehicle, returning fire before the alleged hitman could carry out the plan. The attacker was struck and collapsed beside the vehicle. Witnesses rushed toward the scene as authorities later reported that the suspect died from his injuries. Investigators reportedly examined the incident as a possible act of self-defense. When a threat develops unexpectedly, awareness and rapid access to safety can be critical. Maintaining secure surroundings, limiting predictable routines, and reporting suspicious behavior may help reduce vulnerability to targeted attacks. An armed robbery collapsed instantly when a customer in line fought back and ripped the weapon away from the suspect. In Castelnuovo, Italy, armed robbery suspects stormed a crowded post office while customers loitered around. One suspect moved toward the counter demanding cash as another stayed near the entrance to cover the escape. An off-duty police officer among the customers suddenly intervened and confronted one of the robbers inside the lobby. During the struggle, the officer snatched the weapon from the suspect's hands as customers scattered, and the second robber dropped the stolen cash before rushing toward the exit. One suspect was detained after the robbery failed, while the remaining accomplices fled the post office and escaped on a scooter waiting outside. When weapons are involved, every decision carries risk. Creating distance, seeking cover, and alerting authorities when safe can help reduce harm during a robbery. Two armed robbers walked into a phone store pretending to shop, but the owner attacked before they could pull off the robbery. Security footage from Manta, Ecuador, shows two suspects entering a cell phone store while acting like regular customers. Moments later, one suspect reached toward his waistband as if pulling a gun. The store owner instantly rushed the suspects, throwing punches and wrestling for control as another man joined the fight. During the struggle, one robber lost his weapon while both suspects were beaten back toward the entrance. One suspect smashed through the glass door to escape while the second robber was still being overpowered inside the store. Both eventually fled without stealing anything. If you spot suspicious behavior during a robbery attempt, creating distance and escaping safely is usually safer than physically confronting armed suspects. 4 masked robbers storm into a cell phone shop and order everyone to the floor, but the customers suddenly fight back together. During business hours inside a cell phone store in Polokwane, South Africa, several masked suspects enter the shop and attempt to take control of the store while customers and employees are still inside. As the suspects focus on the front counter, shoppers quickly realize only one robber appears to be armed. In seconds, multiple customers rush the group from behind and overpower them, throwing the robbery attempt into chaos. Security footage shows the suspects losing control of the situation as customers and staff force them toward the exit. 3 suspects flee empty-handed, while another is held at the scene until police arrive. During active robberies, prioritizing awareness, escape routes, and coordinated responses can help people react quickly when safe opportunities to escape or seek help appear. A bicycle thief vaults into a yard, tries to toss a bike over the wall, and thinks he's escaping, until the homeowner catches him. In Curitiba, Brazil, a suspect climbs over a residential wall and enters a yard where a bicycle is parked near the driveway. Security cameras capture him grabbing the bike. The suspect lifts the bicycle and attempts to throw it over the wall. The homeowner spots the theft, moves his wife and daughter away, and rushes to confront the intruder. A confrontation breaks out inside the property. The suspect abandons the bicycle and flees empty-handed. Police later reported no arrest had been made at the time of publication. An armed man approaches a parked car to carry out a robbery, but the family inside reacts before the encounter goes as planned. On a street in Belém, Brazil, a man walks toward a parked sedan and allegedly attempts an armed robbery. Inside the vehicle are a driver, a woman, and a young child. The confrontation unfolds in seconds. The driver reacts immediately, causing the suspect to abandon the approach and retreat from the vehicle. After the threat appears to end, the driver exits and carefully scans the area. Meanwhile, the woman rushes from the car, opens a door on the opposite side, and carries the child to safety before the driver returns to the vehicle. 3 men rush into a Dearborn pharmacy pretending to drop off a prescription, while a 4th suspect waits outside. Inside Nasser Pharmacy, the suspects jump the counter and force employees to the floor. One robber takes the owner deeper inside, demanding valuables and prescription drugs while the others clear shelves. After grabbing the drugs, the crew rushes outside and piles into a waiting white Dodge Charger, but the getaway collapses when the Charger crashes into another vehicle nearby. All 4 suspects scatter on foot, but Dearborn police are already nearby. Officers chase them down within minutes and take the entire crew into custody. Robbers often rely on employees feeling responsible for protecting property. Recognizing that money and inventory are replaceable can prevent split-second decisions that increase personal exposure. 2 armed robbers corner a pawn shop clerk until 1. Distraction changes everything. Surveillance video from a Utah pawn shop shows one suspect pointing a handgun at the clerk, while another jumps behind the counter searching for valuables. The armed suspect becomes distracted trying to close the entrance door. The clerk slips into a back room, retrieves a concealed firearm, and waits. Realizing the employee disappeared, the armed suspect follows him inside and is confronted by the armed clerk. A struggle breaks out inside the room. As the struggle continues, the second suspect vaults over the counter and flees the store. The armed suspect later dies from injuries, while the second suspect is later arrested in Houston. The clerk survived because he noticed a brief lapse in the suspect's attention. Recognizing small shifts in a threat's focus can create opportunities to reposition or escape. 2 armed robbers confront a parked group at night, but one victim is secretly an off-duty officer. Security footage from Compilation, Brazil, shows 2 suspects approaching a parked car, where a 22-year-old military police officer stood with friends and his girlfriend near a snack bar. One suspect points a revolver and demands the car keys. The officer quickly pushes the group to take cover, then draws his personal firearm and fires back. During the exchange, one teenage suspect is struck and goes down during the exchange, while the second suspect flees. Police later confirmed the wounded 15-year-old suspect later died from injuries. The officer suffered a gunshot graze to the stomach, but survived after receiving medical treatment. The officer's first reaction was moving others out of the threat path. In high-risk encounters, protecting vulnerable people nearby may matter more than reacting to the offender. A suspected shoplifter threatens a supermarket guard with a knife, but the confrontation turns violent. CCTV footage from a Morrison supermarket in Peterborough, England, shows a security guard escorting Matthew Swanborough after a staff suspected him of wanting to leave without paying. As the security guard escorts him out, Swanborough warns that he has a knife. The suspect pulls a knife from his waistband and points it toward the guard. The guard responds by striking him with a water bottle before wrestling him to the floor. A nearby customer then steps on the knife blade, forcing the suspect to release it. Police arrived and seized the weapon at the scene. Swanborough later admitted carrying the knife and was sentenced following the incident. The knife was revealed only after the confrontation had already begun. Early warning behaviors, threats, and escalating language are often the first signals that risk is rising. 2 motorcycle thieves corner a couple, but the target fights back with an umbrella. Security footage from Brazil shows a couple walking under a blue umbrella when 2 men on a motorcycle slow beside them. The passenger targets the couple in an attempted robbery. Instead of freezing, the man repeatedly opened and closed the umbrella toward the suspects, using it as both shield and deterrent. As the thieves tried striking back, the passenger took a punch to the face and nearly fell off the bike. Unable to complete the robbery, the suspects sped away empty-handed while the couple escaped unharmed. The confrontation later spread online after the footage went viral. Many street robberies begin with offenders testing proximity before acting. Recognizing unusual vehicle positioning early can provide valuable time to change direction or seek safety. An armed robber rushes into a convenience store, but the clerk reaches for a hidden gun instead of the cash. Surveillance footage from Baton Rouge shows a masked suspect inside a convenience store pointing a handgun at the clerk during a robbery attempt. The suspect demanded money while moving around the counter toward the employee. As the robber approached, the clerk pulled a firearm from beneath the register and fired at the suspect. The suspect was hit during the exchange and tried to escape, but later went down due to his injuries. Police later identified the suspect as a regular customer of the store. Investigators ruled the shooting self-defense and no charges were announced against the clerk. Once a weapon enters the encounter, the victim loses certainty about the offender's intentions. Decisions become safer when personal survival remains the priority over protecting assets. A mother carrying her young daughter resists after two motorcycle robbers target her. Security footage from Colombia shows a woman walking with her child through a neighborhood when two men on motorcycles suddenly approach. As the passenger jumps off the bike, the mother quickly moves away from her daughter and confronts the suspect. A struggle begins as the woman confronts the attackers, even swinging at the second rider still on the motorcycle. Nearby, residents notice the chaos and rush toward the scene. The motorcycle driver speeds away, abandoning his partner behind. The mother and several bystanders chase the remaining suspect on foot while her daughter watches nearby. Another woman later picks up the child before the mother returns. Offenders often depend on isolation and hesitation. The moment nearby people become aware of the situation, the balance of control can change dramatically. A knife-wielding robber thought a nearby shopper was harmless until the man tackled him to the floor. Security footage from a supermarket in the Netherlands shows a masked suspect collecting cash and items from the register while threatening employees with a knife. A customer quietly stands nearby, pretending not to interfere as the robbery unfolds. Without warning, the man lunges toward the suspect from behind, grabs the robber's knife arm, and takes him to the ground beside the checkout lane. The two struggle briefly before the customer pins the suspect down as employees rush over to help. Police later arrested a 36-year-old man in connection with the attempted robbery. Reports said the cashier was shaken afterward. The suspect believed everyone nearby would remain passive. Criminals frequently exploit assumptions about compliance, making unpredictability a factor in how events unfold. A motorcycle thief tries stealing a man's phone outside his home, then is pushed into the path of a passing vehicle. Security cameras in Cali, Colombia show a man arriving on a motorcycle and approaching someone outside a house. The suspect appears to pull a firearm and demand the victim's cell phone before trying to escape. As the robber flees, the victim pushes him into the street as a passing car comes through the lane. The vehicle strikes the suspect, sending the rider sliding down the road. The motorcycle crashes onto the pavement, while nearby residents later rush outside. Police respond shortly after and investigate the attempted robbery and collision. Pursuing a threat after the immediate danger passes can introduce new risks that were not present moments earlier. Personal safety often changes once the incident shifts locations. A man walks into a Wisconsin bank with one hand hidden, and seconds later, a confrontation unfolds. Security footage from Madison, Wisconsin shows customers standing inside a Chase bank when a masked man suddenly enters wearing dark clothing. Witnesses later said the suspect kept one hand concealed in his pocket while moving toward the teller area. A private security guard inside the bank quickly drew his firearm and responded with gunfire after the suspect entered. Customers nearby ducked and scattered as the suspect fell near the lobby entrance within seconds. Investigators later identified the suspect as 35-year-old Luis Narvaez. Authorities said he was not carrying a weapon during the attempted robbery. Prosecutors ultimately declined to charge the guard, ruling the shooting legally justified. People often react to what they believe is happening rather than what they can confirm. Perceived threats can influence decisions just as strongly as actual ones. Two motorcycle robbers pull up beside a parked car, but the driver reacts immediately. Security cameras in Brazil show a silver car stopped on a quiet street with everyone inside, preparing to drive away. A motorcycle suddenly pulls alongside, and one suspect steps off while the rider keeps the engine running nearby. As the armed suspect approaches the driver's side window, the driver reacts from inside the car, and shots are fired through the window. The suspect is hit and falls beside the vehicle while his accomplice speeds away on the motorcycle. Moments later, the driver steps out still aiming his firearm at the wounded suspect on the ground, while nearby witnesses keep their distance and emergency services are called. A stationary vehicle can quickly become a target when movement options disappear. Maintaining mobility and awareness of surrounding approaches can reduce vulnerability. After robbing people across New Orleans, one armed suspect targets a gas station clerk. Early morning at a fuel zone on Chef Mentir Highway, security cameras show a gunman entering the store and confronting clerk Mustafa after allegedly robbing multiple people earlier that night. As the suspect moves in with the handgun, Mustafa suddenly fights back behind the counter. The confrontation turns physical fast, with the clerk overpowering the robber and forcing him to the floor before he can control the store. The suspect leaves bruised and empty-handed before later being arrested by police. Authorities connect him to multiple robberies across the city, ending what investigators describe as a series of robberies. Adrenaline can create the urge to immediately fight for control. Recognizing that emotional reactions influence decision-making is critical during sudden threats. A man jumps from a waiting SUV and rushes toward a gas station entrance. Seconds later, gunfire erupts. Around 3:57 a.m. in Puerto Nuevo, Puerto Rico, a blue Hyundai Tucson pulls into a Puma gas station. The driver waits for a quick escape while an armed suspect exits and heads toward the station. As the suspect approaches, he is met with armed resistance inside the property. Shots are fired, forcing him to turn and run back toward the SUV as it begins pulling away. The Hyundai flees as the suspect tries to catch it. Moments later, he collapses near the gas station after being struck during the exchange, while his accomplices drive away. Authorities later investigated the attempted robbery and shooting. Armed robberies can unravel in seconds. The safest response is to seek cover, create distance, and contact law enforcement. A mugger tries snatching a woman's handbag on a quiet Johannesburg street, but she refuses to let go. Surveillance footage from West Dean, Johannesburg, shows a woman walking to work when a man suddenly approaches and grabs her handbag in broad daylight. Instead of surrendering the bag, the woman tries to keep control of her bag, pulling against the suspect and struggling to keep control of her belongings. Witnesses nearby begin reacting as the confrontation spills across the sidewalk. After failing to overpower the victim, the suspect breaks away and runs from the scene empty-handed. A nearby resident reportedly tried stopping him by throwing a plant as he escaped. The woman suffered an injury to her hand but avoided losing her bag. Many victims focus on protecting property once a theft begins. Understanding when an item can be replaced may reduce the pressure to remain engaged with a threat. A couple walking at night is suddenly targeted by two robbers arriving on a motorcycle along the nearly empty street late at night. Security footage shows the motorcycle pulling onto the sidewalk as the passenger jumps off and rushes toward the couple. The man immediately runs away, while the frightened woman freezes and cannot keep up as nearby traffic continues passing through the area. The robber catches the woman, appears to snatch her bag, then jumps back onto the waiting motorcycle as both suspects try escaping down the street before anyone nearby can react to the robbery. Their getaway lasts only seconds. A police vehicle suddenly intercepts the motorcycle, and stops both suspects before they escape and disappear into nearby streets. Isolation, darkness, and limited foot traffic can increase vulnerability. Choosing routes with visibility and nearby assistance can improve personal safety before an encounter begins. Two masked teens storm into a Pennsylvania store with machetes, but the cashier reaches for something far more unexpected. Late at night, inside Perry Market in Pittsburgh, two teenagers walk through the front door wearing masks and hoodies. One moves straight to the counter, raises a machete, and demands money while customers and workers freeze in place. Instead of backing away, store worker Javad Haji reaches behind the register and pulls out a large decorative blade kept behind the counter. The moment he steps toward the suspects holding it defensively, both suspects panic and retreat toward the exit. The teenagers sprint out of the store and disappear down the street empty-handed. Police later released the surveillance footage while searching for the suspects involved in the attempted robbery. Small businesses often create a false sense of familiarity and control. Threats can emerge even in routine environments where people feel secure. A masked robber storms into a Georgia liquor store with a gun, but an off-duty cop inside reacts before the suspect can finish speaking. Just before midnight on New Year's Eve, customers pack Big John's package store in Stone Mountain, Georgia. Surveillance video shows a masked man entering the store armed with a handgun and ordering everyone to get down. Within seconds, an off-duty police officer working security inside the store draws his firearm and opens fire. Customers scramble for cover as the suspect turns and runs toward the exit, while multiple shots ring out across the store. The robber collapses outside the front door after fleeing the store. Authorities respond to the scene and later confirm the suspect died from his injuries while investigators reviewed the surveillance footage. Criminals frequently select moments when attention is divided among crowds, transactions, and celebrations. Recognizing high distraction environments can help people identify elevated risks sooner. Two masked robbers demand cash inside a Michigan bakery. Unaware the manager is creeping behind them holding a construction level. At La Mexicana Bakery in Grand Rapids, one suspect claimed he had a weapon and forced a cashier to hand over money, while employees and customers froze nearby. Surveillance footage shows the robber focused on the open register as cash is removed from the drawer. As the suspect leans over the counter collecting money, store manager Miguel Perez quietly approaches from behind, carrying a long construction level. Without warning, Perez strikes the suspect from behind, dropping the suspect to the floor. The suspect collapses beside the checkout counter, while the second robber recoils in shock. Perez later said he feared he seriously injured the man after seeing him injured afterward. Police regained control as the robbery ended abruptly. Threats are often focused on a single objective and may overlook activity occurring elsewhere. Understanding how attention narrows under pressure can influence survival decisions. A father chased a beer thief outside while his son grabbed a dropped handgun before confronting the suspect beside his car. Surveillance video from a Lakeland convenience store shows 43-year-old Rennie Defoe Jr. stealing 3 18-packs of beer and running outside. One store owner chased him, while the younger co-owner retrieved a firearm inside. While running out, the younger owner dropped the firearm, quickly recovered it, and continued outside. The suspect had already reached a white sedan. The younger owner confronted the suspect beside the vehicle as the car pulled away. Shots were fired during the confrontation as the suspect accelerated from the parking lot. Defoe later crashed nearby and was hospitalized with gunshot wounds. Authorities charged the younger store owner with attempted second-degree murder and shooting into an occupied vehicle over the theft of $36 worth of beer. What begins as a minor theft can transform into a far more dangerous event once weapons appear. Reassessing risk as circumstances change is critical to personal safety. A robbery suspect sprinted through a crowded supermarket parking lot as an officer chased him during an active police pursuit in broad daylight. Body cam footage shows Albuquerque police pursuing a 47-year-old robbery suspect who fled on foot after an alleged armed robbery. The chase moved across traffic lanes and through a busy shopping center packed with civilians and passing vehicles nearby. The suspect stumbled, got back up, and continued running while the officer repeatedly ordered him to stop. Seconds later, shots were fired during the encounter as the suspect turned during the pursuit near the storefront entrance. The suspect was critically wounded during the incident. The shooting sparked public debate over police use of force, deadly force decisions, and high-risk foot pursuit tactics nationwide. Public spaces introduce countless variables that no one can fully control. The more people, vehicles, and moving parts involved, the harder it becomes to predict outcomes. A deli clerk stared down an armed robber, survived a close-range shot, then grabbed a machete and charged straight at the fleeing suspect. Surveillance video from a Long Island deli shows a masked robber storming into the store around 8 p.m. and pointing a semi-automatic handgun directly at the clerk, while demanding cash from behind the counter. When the clerk hesitated, the robber fired a round that narrowly missed him and struck the wall behind the register. Seconds later, the worker reached below the counter, grabbed a large blade, and moved toward the suspect. The stunned robber immediately backed away and sprinted out of the deli as the clerk chased him toward the exit, continuing after the suspect as he fled. Authorities later warned others not to imitate the extremely dangerous confrontation despite the clerk surviving unharmed. Survivors sometimes appear successful in hindsight, but outcomes are rarely predictable at the moment. Avoid judging personal safety decisions solely by how the event ultimately ends. Clown-masked robber armed with a knife picked the wrong shopkeeper. CCTV from a convenience store in West Bromwich shows a masked man entering the shop carrying a knife, while the lone worker stood behind the counter. At first, the shopkeeper reportedly thought the bizarre mask and behavior might be some kind of joke. The suspect suddenly physically confronted the worker and lunged across the counter, triggering a chaotic confrontation that spilled onto the shop floor. The two grappled between aisles and displays as the shopkeeper attempted to restrain the suspect and ripped at the clown mask. Despite being overpowered and injured during the fight, the shopkeeper eventually disarmed the suspect and forced him out before police caught up with him nearby. The attacker was later sentenced to prison for attempted armed robbery and knife possession. The shopkeeper initially misread the threat because the suspect appeared unusual rather than dangerous. Dismissing suspicious behavior too quickly can delay protective decisions. Two men steal a radiator from a building hallway, but the getaway falls apart before they reach the ground floor. Security cameras inside the apartment stairwell show the pair removing a radiator from the wall and carrying it downstairs together. One suspect leads while the other follows behind. The bulky metal radiator forces both men to move carefully through the narrow staircase. As they move down the staircase, the man in back lightly taps his partner on the shoulder. The contact throws the lead suspect off balance, and he slips carrying the radiator. Unable to recover, he falls down the staircase. The suspect tumbles down the stairs with the stolen radiator crashing on top of him, while his partner watches the entire plan collapse instantly. The heavy radiator nearly lands on top of him after the dangerous fall. Suspicious activity in shared residential spaces is often safest documented rather than challenged. Reporting concerns quickly allows trained responders to manage the situation. A masked gunman cornered a homeowner inside a residential garage, but seconds later, the victim managed to seize the weapon and turn the confrontation around. Surveillance cameras in Coyoacán, Mexico City, recorded an armed suspect approaching a homeowner near a partially closed garage entrance late at night. The suspect pointed a handgun at the resident while demanding compliance. As the suspect kept the weapon trained on him, the homeowner suddenly grabbed the gun barrel and wrestled the firearm away. The suspect then reportedly pulled a second weapon. A chaotic confrontation followed inside the driveway area. The armed suspect fell during the incident, but later managed to stand and move away from the scene before the footage ended. Reports stated the suspect later died following the incident. The victim's opportunity emerged only after the encounter had already become critical. Recognizing unusual behavior early may provide safer choices before a threat reaches close range. A woman out for a morning jog suddenly finds herself fighting off a man who allegedly tried to force her toward his SUV. Security cameras along a residential street in Bridgewater, Massachusetts, captured a Hyundai Santa Fe stopping near a female jogger before the driver allegedly grabbed her and attempted to pull her toward the vehicle. The woman struggled to break free, forcing both herself and the suspect to the ground. A nearby resident noticed the struggle and shouted toward them, causing the suspect to panic and run back to his SUV. As the suspect sped away, the woman quickly photographed the vehicle and part of the license plate. Police later used the image to identify the suspect, who was later arrested after crashing his SUV nearby. The jogger benefited when a witness noticed the struggle. Identifying potential sources of help before an emergency can improve response options under stress. Multiple armed suspects step from a parked vehicle and level their weapons at a car they believe is trapped. A vehicle stops in front of the victim's car. Several suspects immediately jump out with firearms drawn and advance toward the vehicle, aiming their weapons as they move in. Before the suspects can reach the doors, the driver reacts instantly, throwing the car into reverse and backing away from the scene. The sudden escape leaves the suspects unable to close the distance. As the victim speeds off, the suspects abandon the attempt, climb back into their vehicle, and drive away without taking anything. The robbery is thwarted before any confrontation can occur. Maintaining awareness and preserving an escape route can be critical during a developing threat. When possible, prioritize getting to safety and contacting authorities. 5 masked suspects entered a jewelry store expecting a quick robbery, but the situation escalated within seconds. Surveillance footage shows multiple suspects entering the business and moving through the store. The group was attempting to rob the jewelry store while employees and the owner were inside. The suspects appear confident as they spread out and begin the robbery attempt. The situation changes dramatically when the owner responds to the threat. What began as a coordinated robbery quickly turns into a frantic struggle when the owner shut the door and started firing at them. The robbery attempt collapses amid the chaos. Reports state that 2 of the suspects did not survive the incident, while the remaining 3 were later arrested and faced serious criminal charges connected to the robbery. An elderly woman looked like an easy target until the suspect lost his footing. In a residential neighborhood, an 80-year-old woman was sitting in her SUV when a man suddenly approached and attempted to take control of the vehicle. Believing she would panic or surrender, the suspect moved in to carry out the carjacking. Instead of freezing, the woman accelerated. The suspect lost his footing, got brushed by the vehicle, and fell to the ground as the SUV pulled away. The attempted carjacking collapsed instantly. Footage shows the suspect left on the roadway while the woman escaped the scene and avoided becoming a victim. 2 armed robbers assumed they had a clean getaway until the store owner fought back. In Villamella, Santo Domingo Norte, Dominican Republic, 2 masked gunmen burst into a mobile phone shop. While one robbed the owner of a gold chain, the other smashed display cases and stuffed stolen phones into a bag. After grabbing the loot, the pair headed for the exit. But as they tried to flee, the owner suddenly pulled a handgun from behind the counter and fired multiple shots. One suspect collapsed outside the shop and did not survive. The second was wounded and taken into police custody. Authorities launched an investigation into the attempted robbery and shooting. Many robberies become most dangerous when offenders believe the crime is already over. The transition between escape and capture is usually unpredictable, creating sudden confrontations that can rapidly escalate. 6 motorcycle thieves thought they were about to ride away with expensive bikes until a showroom employee charged straight into their plan. Security cameras outside a motorcycle showroom in London captured 3 suspects targeting several display motorcycles parked near the entrance. 2 suspects approached the showroom first before the rest joined them. Working together, they began moving the motorcycles, apparently preparing to steal them before anyone noticed. Before the thieves could get away, a showroom employee spotted what was happening and rushed outside to confront them. The workers shoved one suspect to the ground, disrupting the theft attempt and drawing attention from others nearby. As more people joined the confrontation, the suspects abandoned their efforts to move the motorcycles and began fighting back with metal weapons. Despite the violence, the gang failed to gain control of any of the motorcycles. Realizing the theft had collapsed and facing growing resistance, the suspects fled the area empty-handed, leaving every targeted motorcycle behind. Criminals depend on speed and surprise. Once attention is drawn to them, many theft attempts quickly lose momentum and fail. A masked robber entered the store carrying a machete. Seconds later, he was running for the exit with flames chasing him out the door. In Turkey late at night, a hooded man walked into a small convenience store and immediately confronted the cashier with a large machete. CCTV footage shows him advancing toward the counter while threatening the employee and demanding compliance. Behind the register stood the store owner, who remained calm as the armed suspect moved closer. The suspect continued waving the machete and closing the distance. Then, the owner grabbed a can of barbecue lighter fluid and a lighter beneath the counter and ignited the spray, creating a long burst of flame that shot directly across the counter toward the attacker. Caught completely off guard, the machete-wielding robber recoiled and stumbled backward as the flames erupted. The sudden fire instantly ended the robbery attempt. During an armed threat, the safest priority is creating distance from danger, staying behind cover when possible, and alerting authorities as soon as it is safe to do so. A man steps out of a parked car to rob a pedestrian, unaware the target is an off-duty police officer. On a residential street during the early morning hours, CCTV cameras capture a white car pulling over and stopping. An off-duty police officer is walking home alone when a suspect exits the vehicle and approaches him. As the suspect moves in to carry out the robbery, the off-duty police officer immediately recognizes the threat. Rather than complying, he draws his firearm and opens fire, forcing the suspect's attack to collapse within seconds. The suspect falls at the scene. The vehicle and its occupants quickly abandon the scene, while the off-duty police officer remains standing and unharmed, and the authorities are quickly contacted. Robbers often target people who appear isolated. Stay alert when walking alone, especially near vehicles that suddenly stop or approach unexpectedly. A gunman collects wallets and phones from restaurant customers, but one diner decides not to be a victim. At Ranchito Taqueria in Houston, Texas, a masked suspect enters a Mexican restaurant during the evening and points what appears to be a handgun at customers. Diners are inside as he moves from table to table, taking wallets, cash, and mobile phones. After gathering the stolen property, the suspect turns toward the exit. As he walks away from the customers, an armed customer stands up from his booth, draws a handgun, and opens fire, catching the robber completely by surprise. The suspect collapses inside the restaurant. Houston police later determined the weapon used in the robbery was an airsoft-style pistol rather than a real firearm. Investigators said the armed customer was not charged, though police wanted to speak with him about the incident. Robbers often rely on surprise and fear. Stay alert in public places, follow police instructions afterward, and prioritize getting to safety. 4 robbery suspects flee a store. Robbery straight into responding police officers. Security cameras capture 4 suspects leaving the scene of an alleged store robbery during the early morning hours. As they attempt to escape through nearby streets, responding uniformed police officers move in to intercept them. The suspects encounter police, and a confrontation breaks out. Additional police units arrive within moments to support the first officers as the situation rapidly escalates. Authorities say 2 suspects did not survive following the exchange. A police officer was also injured during the incident and received medical treatment. Police secure the area and launch an investigation into the confrontation. When criminal activity unfolds, leave the area immediately and avoid approaching the scene. Unexpected confrontations can escalate without warning. Armed bank robbers arrive at a Nigerian bank where police officers are already on duty. In Owerri, Imo State, security cameras capture armed robbery suspects arriving outside a Zenith Bank branch. Police officers assigned to protect the bank are positioned nearby as the suspects move toward the property. The suspects launch their attack and confront the police officers guarding the bank. A prolonged exchange follows as officers attempt to stop the robbery while protecting staff, customers, and the surrounding area. Authorities later said 1 suspect and 2 police officers did not survive during the confrontation, while another officer suffered a serious injury. Investigators launched a major manhunt as the robbery footage spread widely across social media. Banks can become targets without warning. If a robbery unfolds nearby, seek cover immediately, move away from windows, and follow police instructions. 2 thieves snatch a phone and speed away through a narrow market. Unaware a bystander will send them crashing to the ground. In Brahmpuri, New Delhi, CCTV cameras capture 2 thieves riding through a busy marketplace on a motorcycle. After spotting a victim, they grab a mobile phone and immediately accelerate away through the narrow market. As the suspects attempt to flee, a young bystander reacts quickly and shoves their motorcycle. The impact throws both riders off balance, sending them crashing onto the roadway and bringing their getaway to a sudden halt. The fallen suspects scramble to their feet and try to escape on foot. Nearby residents and shopkeepers join the pursuit, chasing and restraining the pair. During the struggle, 1 suspect brandishes a knife in an effort to break free. 1 thief is eventually detained while the other manages to escape. Phone snatchers usually rely on speed and confusion to escape. Staying aware of your surroundings and promptly reporting incidents can help police identify suspects and recover stolen property. Armed robbers surround a bank customer moments after a major cash withdrawal. Then the victim grabs one attacker's rifle and turns the tables. In Minna, Nigeria, a bank customer withdraws millions of naira from two banks and heads to his Toyota Camry parked outside. A gang of armed robbers arrives in a car and approaches his vehicle. The suspects fire shots and demand the cash. The victim surrenders at first, but as they enter their car after grabbing the bag of money, he fights back. During the struggle, he manages to wrest an AK-47 rifle away from one of the robbers and fires, reportedly wounding a member of the gang. The unexpected resistance causes the robbers to retreat, but the report says they escape with the victim's Camry and the cash inside. They leave behind their own vehicle and the rifle. Police later recover the abandoned evidence and launch a search for the fleeing suspects and stolen money. Criminals sometimes target victims leaving banks with large cash withdrawals. When possible, vary your routes, remain alert for vehicles following you, and report suspicious activity to police immediately. A phone thief speeds off on a bicycle after a snatch and run, unaware multiple people have already seen what he did. On a city sidewalk, a woman stands using her phone when a man riding a bicycle suddenly reaches out and grabs the device before continuing down the street. A nearby driver witnesses the theft and steers his car into the cyclist's path. The suspect crashes, abandons the bicycle, and tries to escape on foot. Moments later, another passerby kicks the fleeing thief into the roadway, sending him to the ground again. Bystanders quickly surround the suspect and prevent him from escaping until authorities can respond. The stolen phone is successfully recovered and returned to its owner. Phone snatchers often target people distracted by their devices near roads and sidewalks. Stay aware of approaching cyclists and vehicles, and keep valuable items secure when using them in public. A suspected robber walks up to a store counter and flashes a knife. Then the employee reaches for something unexpected. Security footage shows a man standing at the front counter of a small store. After appearing to browse or speak with the employee, he reaches into his clothing and produces a small knife. Instead of backing away, the female store employee calmly reveals a much larger knife from behind the counter. The sudden display immediately changes the encounter. The man appears to reconsider his plan, lowers the knife, puts it away, and leaves the store without taking anything. The employee remains unharmed, and the attempted robbery ends within seconds. During a robbery, creating distance, seeking help, and prioritizing personal safety are the safest options. Property can be replaced, lives cannot. Two hooded criminals think they've cracked open an ATM until a cloud of bright pink dye erupts around them. Late at night, security cameras capture two masked suspects in front of an ATM. Using tools, they begin forcing open the machine in an apparent attempt to steal the cash stored inside. As the suspects gain access to the cash compartment, a security dye pack suddenly detonates. A thick cloud of bright pink dye engulfs the ATM area, covering the suspects and contaminating the money. The startled thieves fled through the pink haze and left the dye-stained cash. The security system leaves both the suspects and the stolen money highly visible to investigators. Modern security systems often focus on tracking stolen property rather than confronting offenders directly. Visible markers can help investigators identify suspects and recover stolen assets after a crime. Police hear noises above a bank drive-thru and discover a suspect falling from the roof around 2:12 a.m. Uniformed Huron police officers respond to an alarm at a federal credit union in Ohio. While checking the property, officers hear movement coming from a roof access area above the drive-thru lane. Investigating officers find a recycling bin positioned beneath a ceiling access door. Moments later, the suspect opens the hatch, drops a backpack containing tools, and attempts to escape through the ceiling shaft. The suspect jumps down directly into the drive-thru area where police are already waiting. Officers arrest him on the spot. Authorities say the backpack contained construction tools, and the suspect was later charged with breaking and entering, possession of criminal tools, and safe cracking. Alarm systems, rapid police response, and perimeter checks can quickly expose hiding suspects. Unusual noises and disturbed objects often provide officers with critical clues during burglary investigations. The robbers prepare to leave the scene until their intended victim suddenly turns the car around. On a street in Morelia, Mexico, two motorcycle-riding robbers attempt to steal a man's car. The victim manages to break away and drive off before the suspects can complete the robbery. Instead of continuing his escape, the driver reverses back moments later. As the robbers try to flee on their motorcycle, he accelerates toward them and strikes the bike, sending both suspects tumbling onto the roadway. The pair quickly get back on their feet and run from the scene. The driver pursues them again with the vehicle. During robberies, escaping to a safe location and contacting police is generally the safest option. Pursuing suspects can create additional risks for victims, bystanders, and responding officers. A purse snatcher picks the wrong target when a woman refuses to let go. Around 1 a.m. at a restaurant in Perez Zeledon, Costa Rica, a woman stops for breakfast after work. While standing near the counter, a man approaches from behind and grabs her purse in an apparent robbery attempt. As he grabs the purse, the woman immediately resists. A struggle breaks out as she grabs the suspect and drives him away from the counter. The confrontation spills to the floor where she continues combating the suspect while nearby patrons move to assist. With help from witnesses, the suspect is restrained until responding police officers arrive. Authorities take the man into custody and later present him to prosecutors on robbery-related allegations. Robbery situations are unpredictable. Prioritize personal safety, create distance when possible, and contact police as soon as it is safe to do so. A phone snatcher makes a mistake when he reaches through an open car window. A person sits inside a parked car recording with a cell phone near an open window. As a passerby approaches, he notices the phone and suddenly reaches into the vehicle in an apparent attempt to grab it. The victim reacts instantly, with the driver rolling up the power window while the suspect's arm is still inside the car. With his hand trapped by the closing glass, the suspect can no longer pull away and begins pleading for the window to be lowered. Unable to free himself immediately, the suspect remains stuck outside the vehicle while the victim keeps control of the situation. The footage ends with the would-be thief still trying to get his hand released. Keep windows up and valuables out of reach when stopped or parked. Limiting access can reduce opportunities for grab-and-run thefts. A robber made it out of the store, but the escape quickly went wrong outside. Security cameras inside a hardware store in Botucatu, São Paulo, show a helmeted suspect entering with what authorities later described as a replica firearm. He threatens employees and steals cash and several cell phones from inside the store. As the suspect exits the store with the stolen items, an armed response is made from inside the building. The situation continues outside as the suspect moves into the street during the unfolding incident. The suspect is later reported injured and taken into custody, and the stolen items are recovered at the scene. Authorities also recovered the replica firearm during the investigation. Robbery escapes are unpredictable. Creating distance and notifying police is often safer than pursuing a fleeing suspect. A motorcycle robbery attempt takes an unexpected turn when the intended victims become the robbers. Late-night surveillance footage shows two men standing beside a pickup truck on a residential street. Moments later, two suspects arrive on a motorcycle and move in as if preparing to commit a robbery. The confrontation unfolds almost immediately. Instead of complying, the two targeted men overpower the suspects during the struggle. One of the suspects loses possession of a handgun and control of the motorcycle is taken away. The suspects are forced to retreat on foot, while the intended victims leave with both the recovered firearm and the motorcycle. Even when victims gain the upper hand, physical confrontations carry serious risks. The safest option is usually to create distance, seek safety, and contact police as soon as possible. A gunman approaches families outside a school. Unaware, one of the waiting mothers is an off-duty police officer. Outside a school in São Paulo, families and children wait near the entrance when an armed robber approaches and points a revolver at a security guard. The suspect moves closer and reaches toward the guard's belongings. Standing nearby with her daughter, an off-duty military police officer recognizes the threat. She draws her police-issued handgun and confronts the armed robber as panic spreads among the parents and children. The suspect collapses in the street while parents rush children to safety. Responding police later secured the scene. stay alert in crowded public places, and move away from danger immediately when a threat appears. The robbery looked over until the victim kept interrupting escape. A motorcycle driver is intercepted by two motorcycle thieves on a quiet street. One suspect grabs the rider's helmet and keys before climbing onto the delivery bike. As the thief tries to ride away, the victim repeatedly shoves the motorcycle over, preventing the getaway and throwing the suspect off balance. After several failed attempts to escape with the bike, the frustrated thieves abandon the robbery and flee. The delivery rider keeps his motorcycle. Vehicles are common robbery targets. Stay aware of your surroundings and report suspicious activity to police immediately. A bank robbery escalates inside the branch, leaving customers and employees stunned. At a bank in Karachi, several suspects enter separately while posing as customers. Once inside, they reveal weapons and announce a robbery, taking control of the situation inside the branch. An armed police officer inside the bank attempts to respond, but the suspects quickly overpower him and prevent further action. The situation escalates as they maintain control over the area, and employees are forced to comply. The suspects complete the robbery and leave the bank. The officer remains unharmed, and the incident ends with the attackers escaping the scene. Report says police later identified and tracked down the robbers, and they were taken into custody. During armed robberies involving multiple suspects, situations can escalate rapidly and unpredictably. The safest response is to avoid confrontation when possible, follow instructions, and prioritize staying behind cover until the threat has passed. 4 armed robbers take over a Karachi battery shop until the situation flips instantly. 4 armed robbers target a battery shop in Karachi. 3 suspects enter the store, while an accomplice remains outside on motorcycles as customers and staff are ordered to comply. 2 of the robbers move behind the counter and take cash. As the robbers move toward the exit with cash, the shop owner emerges from cover and opens fire, catching the suspects by surprise. 1 robber is wounded during the exchange. The remaining suspects flee the scene, but police later track down and arrest the 3 surviving accomplices. Armed robberies can escalate without warning. If confronted, prioritize personal safety, comply when necessary, and contact police as soon as it is safe to do so. A robber entered a store expecting a quick getaway, only to find himself locked inside with nowhere to run. Security footage shows a hooded suspect entering a retail store and beginning a robbery while customers and employees are still inside. The suspect appears focused on controlling the shop, unaware that staff are already looking for a way to avoid a direct confrontation. Rather than resisting, the store owner quietly ushers customers and employees out of the building. Once everyone is safely outside, he locks the entrance from the exterior, trapping the robber inside the store. The suspect soon realizes he has been sealed inside. He attempts to escape by forcing the door and repeatedly trying to get out, but the entrance holds. With no way to flee and police on the way, the robber is left waiting inside until officers arrive and arrest him. When possible, creating distance and avoiding direct confrontation can reduce risk. Securing a suspect's movement while waiting for police may prevent the situation from escalating further. A would-be thief picked a fight with an ATM and lost. Security cameras at a private bank in Hatton, Sri Lanka capture a suspect entering the ATM area after hours and attempting to break into the machine. The man repeatedly works on the ATM, trying different methods to force it open. Despite his efforts, the machine refuses to give way. After spending several minutes struggling with the ATM and making no progress, the suspect eventually abandons the attempt and leaves without any cash. Modern ATMs are built with multiple layers of physical security, making opportunistic break-in attempts far more difficult than many offenders expect. 2 armed robbers storm a convenience store, and the counter becomes the breaking point. Security cameras show 2 suspects entering a convenience store and approaching the counter. Both appear armed as they confront the attendant and demand money from the register. The attendant complies and moves toward the cash drawer, pulling out money as ordered. As the suspects focus their attention on the cash, the clerk suddenly retrieves a handgun concealed beneath the counter and opens fire. Caught off guard by the unexpected resistance, both suspects immediately abandon the robbery and sprint out of the store. The attempted holdup collapses within seconds, and the pair flee empty-handed. Robberies can change direction instantly when offenders misjudge who is present, what security measures exist, or how potential victims may react under pressure. A man enters a Chicago phone store carrying what appears to be a harmless bag until he suddenly launches an armed robbery. Security cameras inside a Metro PCS store in Chicago's back of the Yards neighborhood show a customer entering and approaching the counter. Hidden inside a bag is a firearm concealed within a box. The suspect moves toward the employee and begins the robbery attempt. As the gunman tries to take control of the store, the situation unravels almost immediately. Uniformed police officers enter the business and confront the suspect before he can complete the robbery. Caught off guard and outnumbered, the suspect abandons the holdup and surrenders. Police take him into custody at the scene, bringing the attempted robbery to an abrupt end. Reports later linked the suspect to a series of similar robberies in the area. Robbery plans often depend on speed and surprise. When police or security personnel arrive unexpectedly, offenders can lose control of the situation within seconds. Two motorcycle thieves target a woman on a quiet street, unaware she is an off-duty police officer. In Quilmes, Argentina, security cameras capture two suspects riding through a residential neighborhood on a motorcycle. Spotting a woman walking alone, they pull alongside her and begin an apparent robbery attempt. One suspect dismounts and moves toward the woman. Instead of complying, the off-duty police officer immediately recognizes the threat and draws her service weapon. She fires several shots, forcing both suspects to abandon the robbery. The wounded suspects flee the scene on their motorcycle, but their escape is short-lived. Within hours, two men matching the suspects' descriptions seek medical treatment for gunshot injuries. Police identify and arrest both men ages 18 and 19, linking them to the failed robbery attempt. Street robbers often rely on surprise and choosing vulnerable targets. When a victim is trained, armed, or capable of responding unexpectedly, a planned robbery can collapse within seconds. A helmeted man walks into a Brazilian showroom expecting an easy robbery until the business owner reacts first. Security cameras capture employees gathered behind a reception counter inside a showroom when a man wearing a motorcycle helmet enters and heads directly toward them. His behavior immediately raises suspicion among the staff. As the suspect closes the distance and appears ready to announce the robbery, the business owner draws a firearm from behind the counter and opens fire before the suspect can take control of the room. The suspect falls to the floor as employees take cover. The attempted robbery collapses within seconds, ending before any demands can be carried out. Many failed robberies unravel immediately when suspects lose the element of surprise and can no longer control the situation. Two masked men enter a Las Vegas vape shop, but the owner immediately becomes suspicious. Security footage shows two men wearing ski masks entering the store, while a third waits near the door. After being asked to leave, one suspect grabs the tip jar and walks out. The suspects return moments later. When one jumps over the counter and moves into the employee area, the owner fears the group may be armed and grabs a knife from beside the register. The robbery attempt quickly falls apart. Police respond to the scene, and the injured suspect is later identified as a 17-year-old male. Suspicious behavior can escalate quickly. Police recommend reporting threats immediately and prioritizing personal safety. Don't forget to share what you learned today in the comments. Your insight could save a life. Take care.